direct line into Carl Rowe, by the way.
Perfect.
Do you really?
No, God, no.
Oh.
Come on.
Actually, doesn't
I'm gonna
sound
say,
that kind
I'm gonna
You
say
should
I
invite
do.
him on. Ass.
Some call it the heartland. Others flyover country. But for the 2024 presidential hopefuls, the Midwest is the place to land. Here, there is one battleground that may be harder to win than ever. Wisconsin. A state known for its beer and cheese, gridiron and grit.
Football.
And also its razor-thin elections. In 2016,
oh, that's Britt Hume.
Flipped the Badger State red for the first
I
time
like
since
his.
Ronald
I
Reagan.
like him a lot.
But it was back to blue by 2020.
Can you guys hear that
election
okay?
Came during an unprecedented year.
Can you turn it up?
The country was
Yeah, let
rife
me
with
see if I
tension.
can turn it up.
In the suburbs of Milwaukee, the division seemed deeper than ever. But that was just the beginning. 2 years later, the U.S. Supreme Court
Up
struck
as high
down
as it
Roe
can
versus
go.
Wade, leaving the legality of abortion up to the states. In Wisconsin, that meant a nearly total ban. The power of that issue drove Democrats
Exit,
to the
where's
polls this year.
Fox?
Now, that new thin liberal majority on the court could have that abortion issue before it again, just as the race for the White House accelerates.
Oh my God, there's a candidate that just showed up on the screen. I don't even know who it
Will
is.
face off at the home of the Bucks and the Marquette Golden Eagles, hoping to return next July to this city on the shore of Lake Michigan to accept the Republican nomination at their party's national convention.
Oh, Chris Brown. I'll be back.
Tonight, the race for the White House takes flight. Welcome to the first debate of the 2024 presidential
Ooh, Black Rifle
campaign,
Coffee
live
Company
at
up in the
Fiserv
corner.
Farm in Milwaukee.
Wisconsin is primarily known for Eric and Chris. Big fat.
Qualified and have chosen to be here on our debate stage tonight. They are here to lay out
Did Chris
their
just
vision
get bounced out,
for
or?
America.
It's his internet. He'll be back.
For the GOP nomination. Good evening, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum.
And I'm Brett Baer. This is the very same stage on which the Republican choice for president will accept the party's nomination next summer. The 8 contenders are positioned by the order they sit in the polls, with the highest polling candidates in the middle standing center stage. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis.
Crowd favorite. Crowd favorite. Ooh, I heard some boos for
Vice
Vivek.
President Mike Pence.
Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley.
I don't know if I heard any boos for Vivek.
Former
Is,
New Jersey Governor
is there
Chris
a
Christie.
dub issue or something?
Oh, we totally heard a boo for him.
Former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
That dude's a fucking joke. What is he doing here?
Doug Burgum.
Who is this guy? This fucking, he looks like Gavin Newsom wannabe on the Republican side.
One of these guys
if
gave like a
someone
$20 coupon
singled out, you get
to a
30 seconds
business,
to
their business or
respond.
something,
And when the time
for
runs
every
out,
$1 donation.
we all will hear this.
Ooh.
Very pleasant.
So
Very
tonight,
pleasant.
these candidates have a big opportunity to break out of the pack and to explain why they are best prepared to be the Republican choice for president. At a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President Joe Biden, is working to convince the country that with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
They call my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what?
Guess what?
But is it? More than 65% of Americans say the country is headed in the wrong direction. And here's the reality for some voters we talked to here in Wisconsin this week.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of
Y'all.
people out here homeless because they can't buy food.
Gas was $4.50 today.
2 to 3. It's just you can't afford the house anymore.
It's inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us.
How much
out
did you
here.
pay?
$4.50 a gallon.
Tonight, The #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond.
Oh,
It is by a singer from Farmville, Virginia.
wow.
named Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C. is about 100 miles north of Richmond.
These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. 'Cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end.
One of my favorite songs ever. It's like my theme song.
So, Governor DeSantis, why is this song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice. We need to send Joe Biden back to his basement and reverse American decline.
Okay.
And it starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home, while Hunter Biden can make hundreds of thousands of dollars on lousy paintings. That is wrong. We also cannot succeed when the Congress spends trillions and trillions
I see
of
the new
dollars.
logo.
Those rich
It
men
looks
north
good.
of Richmond have put us in this situation. And finally, we need to lower your gas prices. We're going to open up all energy production. We
Joey
will be
with the
energy
burn
dominant
early.
in this country. I showed it could be done in the state of Florida.
It better be
I
reinforced.
pledge to you as your president, we will get the job
I mean, that's
done,
the
and I
safety.
will not
I mean,
let
there's the
you
O
down.
Governor DeSantis, thank you. Governor Christie, do you agree with Governor DeSantis just said there? And why would you be better on the economy than him?
Well, look, I do agree predominantly with what Governor DeSantis just laid out. I think that if you asked every one of us up here, that we would agree predominantly with what he just laid out. Here's the difference. The difference is that we're going to have to work and make sure that we sell these ideas. And be able to put ourselves in a position where we get a majority of the vote, not only by winning the Congress and the Senate in 24, but also by having someone who's had the experience of doing it. Now, I was elected as a conservative Republican.
These are
in a
not
blue
ideas
state
that you should have
with
to sell.
61% of the vote, with a Democratic legislature against me the entire time. And we still, through hard, strong decision-making, brought them around to our point of view. We cut taxes in New Jersey. We cut debt in New Jersey. We made sure that each and every time we were confronted with bad Democratic ideas, we stood and stopped them. And when there were good ideas, we brought people together to make progress going forward. Truth and accountability are the things we need to do to fight waste. And I'd say the last thing is this, Brett. We cannot sit by any longer and allow the kind of spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey, when you were governor, had the second lowest credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, we cut debt in that state, debt that had been left to us by 3 Democratic gubernatorial predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments.
He's just not likable.
To make sure that taxpayers were not being
Well, it doesn't sound honest.
That's really what it is.
That was killing
just not
the
likable.
taxpayer.
So he just got deemed. Apparently, they've got a bell
Senator Scott,
system.
excuse me. The song also goes after welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending. This was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator
Kind
though
of
for
strange
10
question,
years.
not
So what
focused,
have
but
you
good for
done
Oliver
to
Anthony getting
rein
that
in
airplay. Heck
the
yeah.
increasing
But
size of government?
hold on, I'm going to pause this.
Well, thank you for the question.
Because I want to make sure I don't like talk over them to the point where you can't hear them. But Joey, to this point, getting Oliver Anthony's airplay, one of the disappointing things about Oliver Anthony's song is that they've turned it into the Republican anthem. And that's not what it is. And I think it's somewhat of a disservice to Oliver Anthony that they played his song on here. Maybe he gave them permission, maybe he didn't. But it's like they're taking ownership of it. Like, this is a song that resonates, and like, how do our voters feel? Like, I feel like this was kind of shitty.
The people who like that song, though, I don't think feel that way.
You don't think they feel like Republicans? Versus,
Yeah, they don't feel like it identifies just Republicans. Like
that's what I'm saying. And so for Republicans to take it, that's what's shitty about it.
Well, they can try to, but
yeah. Okay, I'm gonna
He
keep.
said that. He said that a minute ago, Heather. He was talking about how he's really a sinner.
Yes.
Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off at Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses. I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family $4,000. If you don't send it to Washington, we can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay.
They've actually got to mute when you're not talking.
Testing, 1, 2.
Yep, we can hear you. And it's actually echoing because you're listening to it on your wherever. So turn the volume down on whatever you're listening to.
Fox, you mute your mic.
Yeah.
Majority of the population,
I muted him.
70-year low for women. African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had a
there we go
all-time low, but our inflation was at 2%. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to
That's a dangerous response to make. Because Donald Trump, Fox, whatever you've got going on, it's like booming. Like it's
Mr. Ramaswamy,
super loud.
Listening to all of this, why should voters choose you over more experienced politicians on this stage? You're basically, a blank slate for people. You're 38 years old. You've said that you only voted in 2 presidential elections before this moment, this political race.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage? I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago. I have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream. And I am genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our 2 sons and their generation unless we do something about it. And I do think Brett is going to take an outsider, because for a long time we have professional politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something.
Cool's going to come on with us.
Now is our moment to start running to something, to our vision of what it means to be an American today. If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race, and we're just getting warmed up.
All right, to you, Governor Haley.
Wow, that was
it's compelling.
Yeah.
To turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight. Then Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now, he's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus
That's what I
bill,
was gonna
they
say.
left us
Tim
with
Scott left
90
that door
million people on
open.
Medicaid, 42 million people on food stamps. No one has told you how to fix it. I'll tell you how to fix it. They need to stop the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence.
Well, let's be careful, Miss Nikki Haley, that Joey calls it right here. We'll invade some country in the Middle East to fix things. She may not want to spend the money here in the United States on Americans, but she'll spend it on a war.
Well, Vivek will just open up the border and then tax everybody's estate 58%.
$7.8 trillion added to the national debt, $3.5 trillion of that before COVID. So does that mean that you're part of the spending problem?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for letting me respond to a reference to our administration's record. I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. I mean, in 4 short years, we rebuilt our military. We revived our economy. We unleashed American energy. And we appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that gave the American people a new beginning for the right to life. Now,
that's really nice talking points,
Martha,
Mike.
you asked earlier who's the most best prepared for this
He always
job.
looks like
And I must tell you, with all due respect,
Joe
to all of
Biden,
my
like with
friends
that
on the
grumpy
stage,
face.
and even to one that's probably looking on. I think unquestionably I am the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the Congress of the United States. I led Indiana where we balanced budgets and had a AAA bond rating.
You did not lead
when I was
Indiana.
governor. And as vice president of the United States, we spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration. And then we were there in the worst pandemic in 100 years. All that being said, I was the first person in this race to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress.
He's not a king.
And when I was vice president.
But yeah,
He gets those hands going. You see the totalitarian in him.
Yeah, this isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy, drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to
Until he changes his mind next week.
God, I know you guys hate him so much, but he's so good.
And go to war. The only war
I don't hate him.
People sell a good story.
on the federal administrative
Well,
You
we
just
can
can't
say that about
believe
every
anybody.
fucking human on this planet.
Yeah,
maybe I'm telling you
Vivek
the story.
supports limitless immigration and a 58% estate tax.
For me, it's pretty simple. That's something
And that's
a
new.
president can do.
Let him
with
say that
focus,
on here.
and I'll deliver on
Well, let
it.
me explain
Yeah,
it to you.
if he says it, I'll believe
If
it.
I can. I'll go slower this time.
I sometimes struggle with the.
I'll go slower this
I
time.
was
He's
a
going to bring
House
out the car
conservative
battery.
leader before it was cool. I actually pushed a Deficit Reduction Act. That was the last time we actually reduced the national debt in the United States when I was the leader of House conservatives. I balanced budgets and cut taxes when I was governor. I mean, look, Joe Biden has weakened this country at home and abroad.
Yeah, guys, if you're
Now is
tuning
not
in
the
right now,
time for
please go
on-the-job
like,
training. We
subscribe,
don't
do
need
all
to
the
bring in a
things.
rookie.
We're not on Rumble right now because it wouldn't let me set up the Rumble live stream. So
It's 30 seconds when you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up, Governor.
They have
So
lost
here's the
control.
thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake.
Ooh, they're gonna get him on locking down the schools.
That
You
crowd.
We led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this,
Pence
as
is
your
gonna eat
president,
this.
I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and
They're gonna
coddle
fuck him so
You
hard
bring
on
Fauci
this.
in, you sit him down,
Who is?
and you say, Anthony, you
Everyone
are
on that
fired.
stage. He locked down the schools.
But everybody wants to hear what DeSantis is saying.
You know what?
That's
Yeah.
true.
I just want to respond to Mike for 1 second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion now. The reality and the fact of the matter is...
Was that one of yours?
Not really, Mike. Actually, we're just going to have some fun tonight. And the reality is, you have a bunch of people, professional politicians, super PAC puppets, following slogans handed over to them by their 400-page super PACs
The guy who went
last
to law
week.
school in
The real
Soros.
Well,
choice
there's the
facing this
DeSantis
primary is
jab.
this. Do you want a
Did you hear
super
that?
PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you want incremental reform, which is what you're hearing about, or do you want revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side.
Oh, I
of
believe he's a
American
revolutionary
revolution.
for sure.
We're gonna take control
Yeah.
back here.
We need everyone.
Take it
to
easy.
We're
have
gonna
a-
take
Communist.
control back.
I think that's fair.
Gone out of
There are
control.
two people who have not.
Ben Becker's
Back
just
to
taking the
that, we
stage
are.
over.
There are two people who
Yep.
we have not heard from yet. So let's hear from Governor Bergram and then from Governor Hutchinson on the economy, sir.
Well, great. Thank you, Martha.
Oh, I forgot that.
Oh,
Of course,
thanks.
I'm from a town
I'm
of
glad you know
people.
I'm
It's a big
here.
deal to make
Who's
it on
this
the
guy?
stage with all these folks.
North
I wanted
Dakota,
Perry
South
Johnson on
Dakota.
stage.
But when they were all wishing me well,
I just
think
want
took it a
Trump
little
to
too
walk in
literally
about
when they said,
midway
"Go
through
to
with a
Milwaukee and
cigar.
break a leg."
What's up, dude?
What
I do wanna
walkout
say,
music do you think he
on
should
this,
have
We're missing
happen?
something. We can't just talk about the Biden economy because the
WWE
economy,
Rumble.
energy, and national security are all tied together. Of course, we're paying too much for our energy in our state in our country right now. But part of the
Sabotaged
reason
by
why is
these
because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is something that is just subsidizing China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar
So
panel.
wait,
it's
should we
being
pause
produced
this
in a
and switch
power- in
over
a
to
plant
Tucker
in
for a
China
little bit
powered
and
by
see what
coal,
Trump is
Or it's
saying?
being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every
It's all
farmer in this country
pre-recorded.
would like to buy diesel at
No.
20% off,
Okay.
just like they're buying it in China.
Governor Hutchinson, quickly.
Thank you, Grant. Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have a conservative record in which I lowered
I'm the
taxes in
reddest
Arkansas
red that
as
there's a
governor.
red.
I
I'm
created
red.
a $2 billion surplus
I'm the
that I
reddest
passed
red
over
of the
to my
red.
successor.
I'm so
We
conservative.
we passed the
that we
strongest
shrunk the
RIFRA law,
size
and
of
then
government.
Walmart called,
We
and
have
then I repealed it.
14%
and
fewer
vetoed it.
state employees in
Fox,
Arkansas
Fox, you've got to
after I
record
left
some sound
government
bites
and when
for
I
us.
took over as
That was
governor 8
fucking
years
good.
ago.
You sound.
I
that
tell
was,
that
that was
because
money.
that's what we need in Washington, D.C. We need somebody who can actually constrain the growth of the federal government, that
Text says
can
Trump walks
actually
out
reduce
Stone
the
Cold
size,
Steve
and
Austin
I've
with a
pledged to
folding
reduce by
chair.
10%.
Yes,
of
Texas. Yes,
non-defense
and a
workforce.
fucking natty light.
That's a
You just
specific
smashed
pledge
it
to make
on
that
Pence's
attacks the
head.
administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business. But let me tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being
You've
head
been
of the
an
DEA,
enforcement
in
arm of the
Homeland
state.
Security in times of crisis.
No, he didn't
And while
prosecute
I
any
think that that's
cocaine
experience that is important for the future of our
possession cases while
country
he was
to
US
be the
attorney.
president of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have
How
a
is
lot of
Vivek a
topics to get to,
successful
but I promise we're
businessman
going to
when he
get to
tanked this
everyone
company
if we play within the rules.
75%?
Okay, next topic. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for.
Fox,
in
you hate
Maui,
him so much.
after the deadliest U.S.
He
wildfire
hates
in more than
If I lost
a decade.
75% of my
And
income,
White House
people would call me a
officials said
failure.
that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
And a tropical storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast of Florida. And in the last month, the heat wave in the Southwest broke records nearly 50
Did Fox News
years
become
ago.
like climate people?
What happened 101 years ago? I'm curious.
Polls consistently show that young people's #1 issue is climate change.
Fox,
How will
I
you,
lose
as both
75%.
president
Is this
of the
Ben
United
Shapiro's
States and
cousin?
leader of the Republican Party, calm their fears that the Republican Party doesn't care about climate change?
So we want to start on this with a show of hands. Do you believe in
Hey, Heather.
human behavior is causing
you can hear me?
climate change? Raise your hand if you do.
Look, we're not school children. Let's have the debate. I mean, I'm happy to take
There's
it
a
to
little bit of
start.
a delay.
So do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said, no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
Let's just answer the question.
So is that a yes? Or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
because
no,
the
I
climate
didn't
change
raise- I
agenda
didn't
is a
raise
Oh,
hoax. Let us
screw
be
Fox
honest as
News.
Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a
Except for
hoax.
the tuition
The
to
climate
law
change
school
agenda
paid
is
by
a
Soros.
hoax, and we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is more people are dying of bad
You ready for
climate
this,
change
Joey? Because he's getting
policies
ready to say
than
it.
they are of actual climate
Governor,
change.
Governor Haley, are you bought
The
and
death
paid
rate
for?
is down by
Hold on.
in the last century.
Listen.
She absolutely is
Hold
fucking
on,
the
hold
bomb.
on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy
Oh.
who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here.
Yeah! America.
The last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, what's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here, was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Oh, that's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
Nah, I want them to take each other out.
Yeah, the establishment that we know is the establishment.
I wanted to come to
It's going after the
blows.
guy that I think is established.
There's only one. It's Vivek Trump. Nobody else stands a chance.
Exactly why Margaret Thatcher
against
said,
Trump.
if you want
Maybe
something
Vivek.
said, ask a
That's
man.
it.
If you want something done, ask a woman.
Ooh. Ew.
No. 19th
Ew.
Amendment repeal right now.
We do care
What?
about clean air, clean water. We want to see that taken care of.
Can
but
we
there's
mute
a right
her?
way to do it.
Is there
and
a
the
button?
right way to do
We
it is
just talk
first of all,
over her.
Yes, is
Nope. There we
Just
go.
talking about preparing a nice
go and
chicken
really
salad.
change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that
Wah,
they have to
wah,
lower
wah,
their
wah,
emissions.
wah.
That's where our problem is. And these green subsidies that Biden has put in, all he's done is help
Governor of
China.
North Dakota
Because he
is
doesn't
bought.
understand
No
all
one
these
knows who
electric
he
vehicles that he's
is.
done. What that does.
Vivek is
half
bought
of
and
the
paid for
batteries
by
electric
Pharma
vehicles
and
are made in
Donald
China.
Trump.
And so
You have
that's
no
what
proof
the
of that.
environment.
Chrissy
You're putting
just
money in China's
tulsied
pocket, and
Vivek.
Biden did that. So first
No,
of all,
he
I
did-
think
no,
we
she
need to
didn't.
acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop.
What
polluting,
if
and that's
I
when we'll
have a
start to
question
build
I'm going to
our
pose to you because I really don't care what Nikki Haley has to say.
Are you
But to the audience and to our guests on the show,
Here's what the American people deserve.
what
is a debate about
are
the
you going to do
issues
if
that affect
Vivek
their
speaks
lives.
out against Trump
Going
tonight?
back and forth, being childish is not helpful to the American
I
people.
think that.
to decide
I
on the
mean,
next leader.
I wonder if
Number
Fox
one.
will
Wait a second.
reverse
Number
course
two,
with his bullshit.
as a
He's
kid
not
growing
going
up in
to.
a
He's not
single-parent
going to
household
speak.
mired in-
I already
But
know
if
what.
he
I
does,
wonder, was the
Well,
American
Fox
dream
will say
real
that
for
that's
kids
planned. That's
who are
all part of
devastated
Trump's
by poverty,
plan.
devastated by
This
the
is all
challenges
set
of life?
up.
Fox
He
is
is so
done with
financially
Vivek
Fox is
tied
basically
to
like-
the mega
What
Yeah,
she's
Fox
done
is
for me.
QAnon.
If we focus on restoring hope,
Vivek has
creating
paid so
opportunity,
much money
protecting
into
America.
the pro
If we
MAGA
want the
consultant
environment to be
groups.
better and we
Those
all
two are like
agree,
financially
the best
tied
thing
to
to
the
do is to
hip.
bring our jobs home from China. If we create,
we have
I
a
wonder
ton
if
of
it's
listeners
politically
over
that
on
smart.
Facebook right now. You guys, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. You can comment in the thread and it will show up over here. I'm going to go check to make sure I'm not missing anything. Thank you guys for all tuning in. That's awesome.
That was quick. America.
The most pro Vivek thing I'd say is from here on out, he needs to be consistent in message and not attack Trump. Because if he attacks Trump, he loses a massive part of his popularity.
Why would we put ourselves?
It would be stupid and foolish of him long term to do that.
Devastating our own economy. Let's bring our jobs home.
We have a lot of different topics to get to.
Yeah, we do. We thank you all. Thank you, Senator Scott. So coming up next, the candidates will weigh
Wasn't
in
that like an
on what could be
enlightening
the
discussion
defining
on
issue
climate
in the
change, though? I think
2024
we've really
campaign.
resolved the
The
issues,
first
right,
Republican
guys?
So
debate
enlightening.
continues moments away.
The guy, like, he has Fox has no proof of any of the crap he says
we care.
We're going to
at
stand up
all.
for the
If
Yeah, except for, the federal government's Federal Election Commission financial reporting, of what he's spending his money on. And it's all going to people highly connected to Trump and they only work with Trump endorsed people.
you mean the people that are populists? You're mad at
The people who can't win elections because they suck.
Well, I
Well,
remember one
and
election
so
they
that's
won.
the thing, right? Like, who else is he going to target but populist supporters?
I guess maybe it's like
Or
he wants
Vivek?
He wants Mitt Romney or something.
Vivek's not in it to
Like,
run
who is
president.
your ideal candidate? Is it Mitt
Mike
Romney?
Pence. No, I'm just kidding. I like Ron DeSantis. I have some big disagreements on foreign policy, but of everybody on that stage, the only things I really like that have been said, I mean, Nikki Haley addressed the Medicaid issue and spending and Republican hypocrisy. I don't like Nikki Haley at all, but she's going to be one of the few people to bring up the serious issues.
Well, and she also despises Trump and the populist movement in general. So she's going to go hard in the paint for traditional conservative values.
I'm surprised. Did he promise her
Pence.
something? Did he
What'd you
promise
say?
her something? Did Trump promise her something and she didn't?
Well,
get it?
he gave her a position in the last administration.
She was the UN ambassador, and then I think she was another position before that or after.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Mike Pence didn't. He's not going to take any swipes at Trump. That surprises me. It seems like he's trying to be the reasonable, moderate. Everybody come together. Let's hold hands.
Well, I'm not
in that
surprised by
way.
it. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Because he was part of the Trump administration. So if he takes swipes at Trump, it's like a mirror. You're just bouncing your criticisms back on yourself.
He was in charge of Operation Warp Speed,
which is the COVID stuff.
I mean, factually, that's true, but from a narrative angle, he could just.
Can we just talk about the Black Rifle Coffee?
Yeah,
Company?
don't buy Black Rifle coffee.
Yeah,
Buy Stocking Mill coffee
or Caliber coffee.
Caliber
Either
coffee. Yeah, buy Caliber coffee to support Palmetto State Armory and that corporation, what they're doing for the Second Amendment.
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you
And
guys.
this guy's
but I had
cool
to throw
too.
that out
Russell
there.
Brand's awesome.
I do like Russell Brand,
You
but I
mean
am
unmute it?
blown away by Fox.
Beyond acceptance,
We are
love
also
and
sponsored
enthusiasm
by
for the billions
4chan
of ways
Poll.
that it's possible to be a human being.
That's a joke.
It's a good commercial.
I'm blown away how Fox
hard-earned
marginalizes.
retirement savings to DC.
This is Ben Shapiro. I want you to buy Birch Gold.
Smart Americans are taking action by
I'm going to put a
texting
Caliber
Gold
Coffee
to 98.98
link in the
for a free
chat
info kit on gold
so that you
from
guys
Birch
can
Gold
go
Group.
support
For
Palmetto
20 years,
State
Birch
Armory
Gold has
because
helped
they're
concerned
amazing.
Americans protect their future by moving part of
A
an
lot of
existing
people
IRA
don't
or
realize
401k.
that they're in coffee, and I mean, I get access to it, so that's pretty exciting.
They also do concealed carry insurance.
If
They do. I'm
if,
also an affiliate partner with them as well.
Fox, if during the next segment, Vivek just like ripped his shirt open and he had an HK t-shirt on underneath it, what would you
Oh,
say?
shit. Let me turn this back on.
he is a great patriotic American. He obviously believes everything that he says. HK is a wonderful brand.
It's been a losing issue for Republicans since the Dobbs decision. In 6 state referendums, all have
Okay, we're going to
upheld
talk abortion
abortion
now.
rights in this country. And even in red states, there are more swing state referendums that are coming up as we head into the elections as well on this. So, Governor Haley, what do you say to your party?
This is just
And to your
doing
state,
nothing but
which
giving
today
Democrats
confirmed is
ammunition
state
for the general.
abortion law as well.
Yes.
Especially the impact
That's
on
true.
women, suburban voters across this country.
Which is disappointing.
Thank you, Martha. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, we need to stop demonizing this issue. This is talking about the fact that unelected justices didn't need to decide something this personal because it's personal for every woman and man. Now it's been put in the hands of the people. That's great. When it comes to a federal ban, let's be honest with the American people and say it will take 60 Senate votes. It will take a majority of the House. So in order to do that,
So what she's
let's
saying is
find
murder is a
consensus.
deeply
Can't we all
personal
agree
issue.
that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Brett,
Who has said give him the death penalty?
Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that is a tough thing to sell nationally?
This is a
Well, I
very
would say
carefully
we
worded
sold
question.
the biggest election landslide victory in the history of the Republican Party in the state of Florida in 2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most impactful moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week
God,
ban
I wish he was
federally?
more
I'm
better.
going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Have a national.
Hold on, Senator. Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head. What?
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause. After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read.
Yeah, he's
before
really
I formed
fucking
you in the
unlike
womb, I knew you.
And he
And
just
see, I set
stands so
before you life and
stiff
death,
and
blessings and
weird.
curses. Now choose life.
Something's wrong with that guy.
And I knew from that moment on, the cause of life had
So
to be my
negative.
cause. And I've been a champion for life in the Congress, a champion for life as governor and as vice president. And to be honest with you, Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people, they didn't just send it to the states only. It's not a states only issue. It's a moral
Look how
issue.
pissed she looks.
And I promise you, as president of the United States, the American people
Heather,
will have
I
a
feel like
champion for
everybody
life
up there
in the
has
Oval
folded
Office.
under
Can't we
COVID.
have
They
a
folded
minimum
like fucking
standard
chairs, all
in
of them
every
except for
state
Vivek.
in
He's
the
the only one,
nation that
but
says
he wasn't
when
in
a
the
baby is
position
capable
to
of
do that
feeling
either. So
pain, an abortion cannot be allowed. A 15-week ban is an idea whose time has come. It's supported by 70% of the American people, but it's going to take unapologetic leadership, leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis
hold on.
pregnancies. I'll do that as president of the United States.
He called my name, so I will respond to that.
30 seconds.
He talks
So first of
over
all,
his
I will
bell
say
more
it
than
is in the
anyone
hands of
has
the
so
people,
far.
and that's where it should be. But when you're talking about a federal ban,
Heather,
be
he's
honest
kind
with
of
the
a big
American
deal,
people.
I am
We
being
haven't
honest.
had 45
He saved the
pro-life
country on
senators in
nobody
January
wants a
100
6th.
years.
president
So
that
no
stops
Republican
on
Man's a
president can
hero.
ban abortions any more than a Democrat president could ban
He
all those
stood
state laws.
alone
Don't make women feel like
against
they
Trump's
have to
coup.
decide on this issue when you know we don't have 60 Senate votes in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
But
to ban
70% of
abortion
the
after
Senate
a baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain.
It's
just going to take leadership.
Is she defending abortion? Like, is that what's happening right
To be
now?
honest with the
We have
American
to have
people.
a 15-week
All right,
limit.
let's get Governor Bergman for one minute here. But the Supreme Court did overturn Roe v. Wade.
Here
the
says
the
Donald
result of
Trump
that decision was
100
that it
coming
went back
soon.
to the states. So that's where it is right now. So as I understand it, you are not in favor.
I mean, all of the,
of a
I mean, they're
federal
all fighting
ban.
for second right now.
What do you say about the states? There's about
got a
5
long
of them,
way to go.
including New Jersey, I think a few others, that allow abortion up until the time of birth, though. If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first of all, I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution. In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, comma, or importantly, or to the people.
True,
We need
except
to
for
get
we're
back to
talking
freedom
about
and liberty for
murder
the people in
here,
this country.
and
And we can't have
what are
have
rights
Republicans
if
who fight
you're not
for 50 years for
able
this
to
very
live?
cause and return it back to the states. And
Yeah.
then the next day they turn around and
Where's
go,
the
no,
due
feds should do
process
that
and just
because the
murking a
feds are
baby?
stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into
There
people's
is a
I
line.
like this guy up
over and
until
over.
this
If we
point,
say that the
but
Fed should be in on this one, where do we stop? I say that we follow the Constitution, and this is returned.
I
to
like
the
how
states.
he
This is
pulls
where
his
it should
pocket
be.
constitution out.
all right, chat. I have a challenge for chat. You
Challenge
gotta
for chat.
Come
Fox
up
got a
with
challenge for
names.
you.
Come up with creative names to troll the
Yes, and
GOP donor
what's
list.
going to work in New York
What
will
would
never
you
work
put
in North
in
Dakota
there
and vice
to
versa. That's
troll
why we have 50 states. That's why we have 50
America?
states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address. First of all, the Supreme Court gave it back to the elected representatives, whether it's the states or whether it's the United
I mean, I
States
think
Congress.
this is
So
kind of
there
decided.
authority,
Like, why is
and
this
that's
even a
why
topic of
President
conversation?
Biden is pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is in essence abortion on demand
Notice his
through the
lapel
term.
pin.
So they have their extreme position at a national level. It's most likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly
almost
fine
made
for
me
it to be
say it.
addressed at the national level as well.
This is how we teach
Arkansas
civics in
has the record
Arkansas.
of being the most pro-life state in the nation. I signed 30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also
We haven't heard
understanding
from
how we
Vivek
have
this
to
segment yet.
enhance adoption
Fox
services,
That's
how we have to
notable.
enhance maternal
Yeah, he
care.
doesn't talk. Has he
Those
talked about
things
abortion
we've done
much?
in
I haven't heard
Arkansas and are important
But
for our
remember in
nation's future.
2016 when everyone thought Trump didn't have a prayer, but he was like basically
Senator, I'll let you weigh in.
at the center of
We
everything.
cannot let states like California, New York, and Illinois have
Yeah, but that's because he was
abortions
throwing
on
bombs and
demand
trashing
up
everyone.
until the day of birth. That is immoral. It is unethical. It is wrong. We must have a president of the United States who will advocate and fight for at the minimum a 15-week limit. I am 100% pro-life conservative. I have 100% pro-life record. I got to tell you, though, we must fight for life. Our Declaration of Independence says our Creator gave us inalienable rights that include life. That is a list. That is an issue we must solve.
Sparkle
We can't
snaps.
leave it to Illinois. We can't leave it to Minnesota. We can't leave it to Illinois. We must solve that issue with a 15-week limit at a minimum.
Thank you,
Brett, I
Senator.
think we're all pro-life, but
Thank
what
you.
I would love is for someone
You
to
think
ask
we are?
Biden and Kamala Harris,
Are
are they
you?
for 38 weeks? Are they for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what the media needs to be asking.
All right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness
Oh, he
crisis.
got out of that. They got out
American
of that entire
cities
deal.
are in decline. People are moving out as homelessness, drugs, crime move in. There are problems accelerated. They
I
did
think she
accelerate during
failed
the
miserably
pandemic
on
and are
that.
still rising, actually.
Murders in Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, all up 30% between 2019 and 2022. Homelessness is up 11%, the largest jump in recorded history. Vice President Pence, a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing happening around this country is a result of those COVID lockdowns? And is your
Awesome.
administration
Let me know
in
how you
part to
like
blame
it,
for
Tex.
how we got here?
Well, I think what's in part to blame is the Democrats have been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels.
Yeah, you're not
I
getting.
mean, it's extraordinary to think about the violence that's
You should-
claiming
you
innocent
should have been
lives
prosecuting
literally
Democrats for
every
colluding
week
with
in every
Antifa.
major city in this
No
country.
shit.
And yet Democrats and liberal
BLM.
prosecutors in major metropolitan areas
Summer of
continue
love.
to work out their fanciful
Under your
agendas
watch.
to,
And the border,
to do
like,
bail
mysteriously
reform and go easy. What we
never got
need
built.
is strong commitment to law
Did you
enforcement.
see
We
they're
need leadership in
selling
Washington,
sections of the
D.C.
border
that'll
wall?
marshal the
Biden's
resources of the
administration is
states,
selling
marshal
them
the
right now.
resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about
the-
opportunity.
It's
I mean,
the
a lot of
biggest
people don't
scam.
know
Adjusted for
that those Trump
inflation,
Pence
the
tax
border
cuts
project
that
Trump
we
did
got
cost
signed
more
into law
than
go
the original
away
Apollo
at the end
program
of
estimates.
2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate.
Carl
How much
Sagan.
did the Great Wall,
United
Great Wall of
States, we're
China
actually going
cost?
to cut taxes
Fox?
further. We're going to extend those tax cuts,
Huh?
and we're going to close the federal Department of
A
Education.
lot of orange
block
chicken.
grant all that funding back to the states with a growing
He always
economy
goes
and
over.
educational choice and law enforcement. We will bring our cities back.
He's got like
Governor
a
Christie,
frame of how he
another issue. This
talks.
weekend here in
Yes.
Milwaukee,
You know, like a
reports
rhythm
say
and
there were
tempo.
30 shootings.
Yep.
And a number of them, including kids.
Very coached.
Add
for a
that to
long
the big
time,
increase in school shootings around the country. Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also
He's
blame
like a
Republicans
cross
for
between
blocking
W.
gun control
Bush,
legislation.
Clinton, and
What
Obama.
would President
Somebody said
Christie
earlier in the
do?
chat, Joey said
You
it.
know, I'm proud of
Pence
the
sounds
fact
like
that
George
I'm
W.
the
Bush.
only
What
person
year
along with
does he
Governor
think this
Hutchinson up on this
is?
stage who's actually running United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where there is significant urban crime.
Let's talk about how
And
totalitarian
the
you
problem
are.
is
Let's
not
talk
gonna be
about your beach
solved
closures
by more
and your
money.
fat
The
ass
problem
sitting there on a
is that
beach
these
chair.
prosecutors
What happened with
in
that
these
bridge
localities in the states are
closure?
refusing to do their job and to
Didn't
arrest
he,
violent
like, get
criminals. So what President
convicted?
Christie would do
Yeah,
is
he like
appoint an
didn't
attorney
he
general
like
who
extorted a
would
mayor or something like
instruct
that?
each
It was
of
like
the
Yeah.
political
93
or
U.S.
political
attorneys
persecution.
that they are to take over the prosecution of violent
I'm sure the
crime
cartels
in
don't
every
pay
one of those
Democrat
cities that are
politicians
failing
to
to do
leave the
so.
southern
We have
border
plenty of
open.
room in the federal prisons
You
to
could
lock
just
up
say
these
they
violent
came after
criminals
me before
and
they
clean
came
up
after
what's
Trump.
going on all
Yeah.
across this country in these individual cities. Secondly, what we
Do you
need to
think
make
right
sure
now
that
he's
each
thinking
and
about
every one of
tweaking?
these
I mean,
criminals
just like
understand
thoughts here
is
and
that
there?
the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father. And then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges. We're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody. In a Christie administration, he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
So the reality is we have a crime wave in this country and we know how to fix it. The question is, do we actually have the spine to do it? More cops in the streets who are on the streets able to do their jobs
Justine's
without
telling
looking
us
over
to
their
be
shoulder
quiet.
for getting sued. And we also have a mental health epidemic in this country. Just over the same period that we have closed mental health institutions, we have seen a spike in violent crime. Do we have the spine to bring them back? I think we should. As president, I will. But it's not just drugging up people in those psychiatric institutions with Zoloft and Seroquel. It's a deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here too. We're in the middle of a national identity crisis. And I say this as a member of my generation. The problem in our country right now, the reason we have that mental health epidemic is that people are so hungry for purpose and meaning at a time when family, faith, patriotism, hard work have all disappeared. What we really need is a tonal reset from the top, saying that this is what it means to be an American. Yes, we will stand for the rule of law. Yes, we will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day. And yes, we will back law enforcement because we remember who we really are. And that's also how we address that mental health epidemic in the next generation that is directly leading to violent crime across this country.
Governor DeSantis, really quickly. Governor DeSantis.
All of you Ramasalami haters. He's good.
We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
Well, Mike, I think the difference is you might have some others like you may have on the stage. It's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal, sort of cold cultural civil war. And we have to recognize that.
People with
He's
the
right.
failed government in Washington, D.C. We just need government as good as our people again.
So
They live in it, Mike, you dumbass.
Pence needs to
touch grass.
Shut down the administrative state. That's actually how we translate.
Crime has been on the rise in Florida, Governor DeSantis. How do you stop crime?
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low in Florida.
Well, actually, Florida man can't be stopped.
Statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. These hollowed out cities, this is a symptom of America's decline. And one of the biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these radical left-wing district attorneys. They get into office and they say they're not going to prosecute crime.
He's going to type it
They
back in
disagree
this.
with the inmates start running the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country that's ever done anything about that. Me. When we had two of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone.
That's true. That's a slam dunk.
As president, we are going to go after all of these people because
Yep,
they
Jake's
are
right.
hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every
I
corner
missed
of
it.
this country.
Thank
and
you
it
for
will
pointing that
stop
out.
when I
I'll go
get into
back and watch
office.
Okay, one more here before the break, Governor Gorgon.
But Brett and Martha, I just thought it was interesting. You asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what about the crime wave in small towns? Because in a small town, neighbors help neighbors. People understand each other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody comes together and helps him get the crop off. There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the White House that understands small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
I like that answer. I don't like him, but I like that answer.
It's hard to look
As
at.
former head of the DEA,
He
I
reminds me
understand the drug
so
crisis
much
in
of
America.
Gavin
that
Newsom.
face-
And right now,
that
whenever
face
you
is
look at
punchable,
the
though, for real.
challenges in our inner
That's
city,
just a
Well,
punch.
my
there
son
are
has Hunter
simple
Biden
words that would be
issues and
helpful.
can't stay away
One,
from
enforce the
cocaine.
law
I know
when it
about
comes to
drugs.
crime. Secondly, let's
And we hear
deal with
them
the
without the
challenge of
side
fentanyl.
commentary,
And it's both
respectfully.
about stopping the fentanyl.
Wrong
coming from
channel, bro.
Mexico, but it's also
You
about
see the size
education
of
of
his
our young
daughter's
people,
So
making
it's
sure
really
that we
weird.
have
Her ears are
the
weird.
tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner cities. As president of the United States, that will stop. It starts at the top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors, by attacking the system and saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the President of the United States.
Brett,
Thank you.
Let
Hold
me
on.
take a break.
Brett.
So, speaking of that, right now you are looking live at Fulton County Jail, where former President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. So next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about the coming trials of Donald Trump.
Ooh. Here's the okay. I'm gonna mute it real fast. So here it is. The chance for Vivek to speak against Donald Trump and his behavior. So tell me how you're gonna feel if he does in fact speak against him. I'm serious.
It's gonna
I know.
be interesting.
I like him for his positions. I don't care if he speaks good or bad about Trump.
I don't understand the expectation of it. Sorry, Chris.
Right.
Well, are you talking to me or are you talking to?
It's more directed at the guy that doesn't like anybody. You know, Jesus Christ could be out there, like himself.
So
and he'd
the
be like,
talking
he's like, that
point.
son of a bitch wears old sandals.
So why has nobody from the Trump camp criticized Vivek when they mercilessly go after every other person who opposes
I don't know.
Trump?
I'm not in the Trump. I'm not in the Trump camp. Why don't you go talk to him? Go ask him.
I think that he liked Vivek as a vice president, to be honest with you.
Maybe. Okay, so real quick, Vivek dodging on the gun question deserves the blast I imagine you all will give him.
I was gonna.
I didn't miss it. I missed it.
Who responded?
I missed it too. I didn't realize his question was pertaining to guns.
Yeah, Jake pointed that out.
But it did. But who else responded about guns? Because they all kind of were asked about guns.
They were asked about crime.
Yeah, but they talked about gun violence too.
Oh well.
They're only asking like.
I mean, I like
three
that he
things.
didn't keep it on guns. I would much rather you talk about the mental health situation than talk about firearms.
I don't know.
The gun doesn't fucking kill anyone, and I would rather you keep that talking point in people's minds than saying, "Oh, well, we're gonna do this with guns. We're gonna do that with guns."
That's true.
I don't know what Jake wants him to say.
I think Vivek has clearly said that guns aren't an issue. He wants to address the issues in the country, which isn't gun. It's mental health right now. It's mental health. It's a lack of patriotism, a hole in the soul.
I can't believe this dude actually qualified for this debate. What positions Vivek changes his mind every 30 seconds? Where can I watch the debate live? Well, we're on a delay of about 5 minutes, Bailey. So feel free. The internet is a wide open place.
Commercial is this? Oh my God. Did you see that?
Oh, yeah, I know. We talked about it earlier.
It's a YouTube video from like 4 years ago too. Like
He had a chance to defend guns and speak to the crime issue. Who will show up to take our guns exactly? Yeah, bring it. We'd love to have you stay here, Bailey, if you want to for the 5-minute delay, but if you need to be live and have it right then and there, I guess I could fast forward through the commercials. That would be helpful.
Former President Trump has been indicted in 4 different states on 91 counts. He will be processed tomorrow in Georgia at the Fulton County Jail for charges relating to the 2020 election loss.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would. Just hold on.
So you signed a pledge and you won't live by your
Hats
words?
off to one for standing by their guns, and then 3.
And I know you didn't.
No, what's the look? Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And you know, this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
He's
you raised
right.
your hand supporting.
I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible.
Here we go.
If your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States. We're skating on thin ice, and we cannot set a precedent where the party in power uses police force to indict its political opponents. It is wrong. We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, Governor DeSantis.
You know, let me tell you.
No, I'm sorry. 30 seconds, Governor.
You make me laugh because
Goes both ways, brother.
you sit here. and
Bring up the
answer-
bridge. Bring up
you
the
sit
bridge.
here and an answer right.
Hold on one second.
Bring up the beach.
You sit here and an answer.
Go ahead, Governor Christie.
Hold on, Governor Christie.
Hold on.
Well, so listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less time they can talk about issues you want to talk about. So let's just get through this section. Governor Christie.
You sit here talking about how you want to stand up for the rule of law.
Yes.
And law and order. And the fact is that it can't be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not true.
Well, it is very true.
That is not
It's
true.
very true. I read it,
Because
and I
there's a
know.
difference
Look,
between bad behavior and illegal
by the way,
behavior, Chris. And you as a
by the way,
prosecutor should know better.
Yeah, you know what? I know a lot
There's
better.
a difference between
I
bad
know,
behavior. And
I know
Vivek's
a
such
lot
a
better
piece
than
of
you do.
garbage.
You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it as governor. And I am not going to bow to anyone.
Bring up the
when we have a
bridge. Bring up
president
the
of the United
bridge.
States who disrespects the Constitution. He said,
Get your MSNBC contributors.
he said,
These are politicized indictments, and we have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution, regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on this issue, but I have another question. I have another question. Hold on, you will. All right. So President Trump's former vice president is on this stage tonight. He has faced hecklers on the campaign trail over his actions on January the 6th. On that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election. So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two, we should be asking ourselves a bigger question about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher Wray, because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence in our justice system. 17% of Republicans have confidence in our Department of Justice. Here's why. We keep seeing not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show up at school board meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called
That happened to me.
domestic terrorists.
Firing Christopher
But that's not it. But that's not
shut
it.
down the FBI. Actually have the courage to get it right.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn because this DOJ uses their power, uses their authority, not just against political opponents, but against conservatives and conservative causes. It is time for a change in America, and I will bring that change to the greatest nation on God's green earth.
We have an important
But Governor
question still to
DeSantis, do you
answer.
believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agents.
But that's
And
not
I
the
will do
question.
that.
That's not the question.
Here, I know, but here's the thing.
You can answer the
This
question.
election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025 when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our country.
Right.
I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission above all else. You can't get distracted. So Republicans We've got to look forward, and we've got to make sure that we're bringing the message that can win in November 2024.
Vice President Pence,
What do you think, Vice President? Is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think
I love watching it get out
I
of
think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There's no more important duty. So answer the question.
I've answered this before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I
This
got
is
no beef
weak.
with
He
him. But
needs
here's the
to
thing:
answer it.
is this what we're going to be focusing on
I'm relieved.
going forward? The rehashing of this. I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis,
Democrats would love that,
we
and they
spent-
will win if we
Governor
let them get away
DeSantis,
with it.
rehash.
I'm not letting Biden hang out in the basement this time. We're going to run him ragged around this country, and we're going to hold him accountable.
Let me just say, Governor DeSantis, we spent an hour talking about policy. Former President Trump is beating you by 30, 40 points in many polls. So it is a factor in the GOP primary. Governor Hutchinson, you did not raise your hand.
I did not raise my hand because there's an important issue we as a party have to face. And over a year ago, I said that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president again as a result of what happened on January 6th. More people are understanding the importance of that, including conservative legal scholars who says he may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection. This is something that could disqualify him under our rules and under the Constitution. And so obviously I'm not going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony or who is disqualified under our Constitution. And that's consistent with RNC rules. And I hope everybody would agree with me.
We're going to get to a lot more time.
We're going to move on. No, we're going to.
Martha, can I answer the question?
Can I get in on that?
Okay, I'd like to answer.
Can I get in on that?
Vice President Pence.
All right, I'd like to answer the question you asked. And
I'd like to get in on this.
Mike Pence stood for the Constitution, and he deserves not grudging credit. He deserves our thanks as Americans for putting his oath of office and the Constitution of the United States before personal, political, and unfair pressure. And the argument that we need to have in this party before we can move on to the issues that Ron talked about is we have to dispense with the person who said that we need to suspend the Constitution to put forward his political career.
Jake is correct.
He said no, and he deserves credit for it.
Okay. Governor Haley, we haven't heard from you on this. Do you agree?
Hey, it's like Survivor. They're starting to climb. They're starting to like build tribes.
That day or not? I do think that Vice President Pence did the right thing. And I do think that we need to give him credit for that. But what I will also tell you is, look, I mean, when it comes to whether President Trump should serve or not, I trust the American people. Let them vote. Let them
That's a
decide.
good answer.
But what they will tell
Don't
you
like
is that it is time for a new generational conservative leader. We have to look at the fact that 3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And we have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
I think, I don't know if that's true what she just said.
Shut up so we can hear them. Go somewhere else and watch it. Go watch Fox News.
But I would say you started off the top of this hour saying we're going to talk about China, Ukraine, education.
We are.
China is the number one threat to our country, and every minute that these 8 candidates spend talking about
Scott's
the
not
past
from
instead
North
about the
Dakota.
future is time that
He
is
should
just
be advocating
you know
invading
who loves it?
Canada.
Biden loves it, but China loves it when we're talking about the past.
Okay, as promised.
Go somewhere else,
Hey,
Deborah.
Questions on it. Let people
Is
say
this
what they
kid?
want to
Yeah,
say.
hey,
We
chat.
have our
This
own
is
very
a
own Karen.
commentary stream. You in the wrong hood.
Can I speak on this
Yeah,
issue?
Deb's a real
You
see you
did
next
answer. You
Tuesday.
answered on this.
You did say
answer.
something.
We got another. We got a
We thought you
Karen.
were done, but
Is
you
she
didn't.
the HOA
Yeah.
leader?
Well, Mike, why don't you say this?
Drove into
Join
the
me.
wrong
Maybe you
cul-de-sac.
said
All these
that on
people
day
who
one
are
you
going to
would
rule
pardon
over
Donald
my
Trump. I'm
life
the only
for the
candidate
next
on the
4
stage
years.
who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move our nation forward.
I don't know
And
why
turn the
you
page
assume that
forward. That's
Donald
exactly
Trump
right.
will be convicted of these crimes.
You should be able to make a commitment. The same justice system that was this
That's the
corrupt.
difference between you and me.
Yeah, I'm not a professional
I've actually-
politician. That's the
I've
difference. You can
actually,
answer a question.
I've actually given pardons when I was governor of the state of Indiana. It usually follows a finding of guilt and contrition by the individual that's been convicted. So look, if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may, it's not about looking back at January 2021. It's about January 20th, 2017. I put my left hand on Ronald Reagan's Bible. I raised my right hand. And I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it ended with a prayer, so help me God. It was a promise that I made to the American people, but I also made it to my Heavenly Father. Every day for 4 years, I sought to keep that oath. And everyone on this stage needs to make it clear whether or not they'll do the same if they earn this job and the confidence of the American people. Now, look, I've made it clear. I had hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to criminal proceedings. I would rather they had been resolved by the American people and the American people alone. But no one's above the law, and President Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American is entitled to, and we will make sure and extend that to him. But the American people deserve to know that the president asked me in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose
This guy
the
won't shut the
Constitution,
fuck up.
and I always
That's
will.
what I said.
had
Ding.
no right to overturn the
He's
election.
gonna get his fucking
tell
bell
him.
again.
Harris will have no right
Ding.
to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Joey, I'm coming back to you. I'm going to pause here for a second.
Thank you.
Okay, so real quick to this point.
Joey, I paid them out of my pocket, first of all.
Joey says the Trump influencers are pushing Vivek hard on Twitter right now. I want you to take something into consideration really fast. As far as the populist movement, for me, I voted for Donald Trump in 2 elections, right? But now I'm to the point where I feel like Donald Trump has served his purpose. And frankly, on a general election basis, Trump is in a position where he has become tainted goods, not because I think he's guilty, not because, oh my God, Deborah, if you tell me to be quiet on my stream one more time, I swear to God, I'm going to kick you. Go watch it on Fox News if you don't want to.
This is a
talk.
commentary
For the
channel.
love of God.
Just
Yeah.
kick her out.
Yeah,
So-
and you use Facebook. That's just ill.
The he's tainted goods from a productivity perspective. I feel like even if he does win the election, in the general election, it will become a situation where he does not accomplish what he wants to set out to accomplish.
The Democrats will raise so much money and take back the House or keep the House and the Senate. He won't accomplish anything. It will be just distraction. But I'll give 2 anecdotes, one from Pennsylvania and one from Tennessee, where 2 different counties, the GOP was taken over by Trump supporters, and it's been in both. No one wants to work with these people anymore because they're zealots. They don't work with anyone unless if it's 100% pro-Trump purity test. And the commentary I got from my friend in Pennsylvania said, I started hating Trump a couple months ago, but now I'm starting to just hate anyone who supports him. And these are far-right activists who've been in the movement for years, long before the Trump people came around.
For the record,
the U.S. has
Fox
committed
down
nearly
there
$77
would
billion
vote for
in
Biden
aid to
over
the
Trump.
Ukraine war.
Even he knew it.
I will vote it. I will vote if Trump is the nominee. I will vote Democrat. Yep.
Regardless of that, the specifics of that plan, is there anyone on stage who would not
Quapsitarianism.
support the increase of more funding?
My vote wouldn't matter in my state.
We would
anyways.
not support it.
Europe needs to step up. I mean,
Trump influencers, boring, Pence fake. I don't trust him. Sorry, I fell asleep.
But you're saying you
No, Deborah's a Trumpist.
He's full of bullshit, not to be
pull
trusted.
their weight. Right now, they're not doing that. And I think we need to do, and I think our
I agree,
support should be
Amy.
contingent on them doing it. And I would have support in China to be able to take
Yes,
China.
Nia, I'm not sure how
and
to
do what we
say
need
it,
to do
but
with China.
yes, I agree.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine.
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protecting against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single
No, Rudy,
greatest threat
just
we face.
you.
And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first. Secure our own border.
Not gonna lie, I love it.
That was a good. That was a
And the
good.
reality is, this is also how we project strength by making America strong at home.
All right. We heard the
I do think Vivek is a good.
Look,
He's
I
a good
took the
communicator,
and I went to
and he's a
Ukraine because
good
I wanted
person
see
to use
for
to
myself what Vladimir
spread
Putin's
those
army
messages out
was
into the
doing
ether,
to the
even
free
if he
Ukrainian
doesn't
people.
believe them.
And let me tell you, I want you all to look around this arena tonight.
Thank you, Scott.
And imagine that every one of these seats was filled. And if every one of them was filled, there would still be 2,500 more children outside to make over 20,000 who have been abducted, stolen, ripped from their mothers and fathers, and brought back to Russia to be programmed to fight their own families. They have gouged out people's eyes, cut off their ears, and shot people in the back of the head, men, and then got
Everyone's
into
gone.
those homes and raped the daughters and the wives who were left as widows and orphans.
Everybody in the chat, I want you to Google Ukraine Tornado Battalion.
Who Donald Trump called brilliant and a genius.
I did.
If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
You were mentioned.
Governor Haley, we'll come back.
Vice President Pence was mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border. And frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence. Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990. The real threat, you talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now is the idea
Say in Washington.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish.
Pence is such a piece of shit.
Yep. On this especially.
Say the only communists we have to worry about are in Washington, D.C. Say it.
He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Mr. Ramaswamy, 30 seconds.
Respond. The real threat we face today is communist China, and we are driving Russia further into China's arms. The Russia-China military alliance is the single greatest threat we face. Nobody in either political party is talking about it.
And today,
only non-neocon on this stage.
there are 5 more
Fucking
countries that will be.
mute Pence. Mute him.
Mr. Vice President.
Thank you.
There will be 5 more countries joining
Heather.
BRICS.
What?
Mute him, Heather. Mute
And then
Pence.
somehow
Mr. Vice President.
China will not think about taking Taiwan.
I
We
mean, you
achieve
got
peace
that kind of
through
stroke.
strength.
Mr. Vice
And
President.
America needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to establish some ground rules
When
here,
we
folks.
hear this bell, that means your time's done. So, Mr. Vice
You're
President,
done.
we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America. And I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq War, the same people who took us into the Vietnam War, you cannot end it. You cannot start another no-win war. And I do not want to get to the point where we're sending our military resources abroad when we could be better using them here at home to protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority in foreign
I
policy.
think we gave you
protect
more
this
than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the rebut. So I do want to get to some other people because everybody, we respect everybody's time
I
here.
will
So,
say DeSantis
Governor
has
Haley,
not had much
You
time.
did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have
Is
said of
DeSantis still
Governor
there?
DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute.
I think the reality is
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference
most
between
people
right
want
and
to
wrong. They
support
need to know the
Ukraine.
difference between good and evil. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to
Vladimir
Ukraine,
Putin just
less
shot
than
down his right-hand man
3.5%
today.
of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the U.S. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics, and named themselves
I don't give about
unlimited
shit about
partners.
1% of the
A
GDP.
win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that Ukraine
I don't
is
either.
the first line of
She's a
defense for us.
neocon
And
though.
the problem that
Scott, I
Vivek
agree
doesn't
with you,
understand is
but
he wants to hand
she's a
Ukraine to Russia. He
warmonger.
wants to let China eat
The
Taiwan.
problem
He wants to go and stop
is I
funding
think most
Israel.
Americans
You
want to
do
support
that to
Ukraine.
friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your
Notice how
friends,
the
you
crowd
put
just
the front
booed
line of
and
defense.
was silent.
Putin has
Vivek,
said,
Vivek
if
was speaking.
once
I
Russia
think you're
takes
wrong.
Ukraine, Poland and the Baltics are next. That's a world
I,
war.
I
We're
hope
trying
I'm
to
wrong on
prevent
this
war.
one, man.
Look at what
I don't
Putin
think
did
public
today.
opinion
He
is.
killed Prigozhin. When I was at the UN, the Russian ambassador suddenly died. This guy is a murderer, and you are choosing a murderer over a
No, that is a completely false statement. Nobody's choosing a murderer. They're choosing America.
Nikki, I wish you well in your future career on the boards of Lockheed and Raytheon.
I'm not on
But
the
the fact
board
of the
of
matter,
Lockheed and Raytheon, and you know,
Boeing
you
came off of it, but you've been pushing this lie. You've been pushing this lie all week,
You want
Nikki.
to go and defund Israel? You want to
Okay,
give
let me
Taiwan
address
to
that. I'm
China?
glad you
You
brought
Oh,
that
he
up.
wants to
wanna go and
defund
I'm going to
Israel.
address each of those right now. This is the false lies of a professional politician.
Slava
So
Ukraina.
the reality is,
America less safe. You have no foreign policy experience. and
She's a
it
piece of
shows.
shit.
you know what? The foreign policy
Yep.
experience that you all have shows in the pointless wars we've gotten into. I have to address that. So our relationship with Israel will never be stronger than by the end of my first
Look at our supply that we have here in the United States. We have diminished our own military supply for Ukraine.
So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed. But you know what I love about Israel? And I've been there probably in the last 10 years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime policies. I love that they have a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what puzzles
you wanna
me
cut the
is,
aid
I want to
off.
learn
And
from
let me
those and
tell
apply
you,
those to protect
it's
our
not
homeland,
that
Nikki.
Israel
That is
needs
the answer.
America. America needs Israel.
Okay,
They
Governor
are the
DeSantis,
defense
Governor
to
DeSantis, you were mentioned in the territorial dispute. Not only
She's such a bitch. She shouldn't even be out there.
President of the United States, your first obligation is
to
to
Iran.
defend our country and its people. And that means you're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people who are being killed because what we're not
After
handling.
22 years of failed wars, they still want to go to war with Iran.
I'm
More.
not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers
Nobody
are
knows,
bringing
Scott.
fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to use force, and we're going to leave them stone cold dead.
We're actually going to
Scott,
move
she
on to
said
China.
Israel's
We're
the
gonna
front
talk about
line
China.
between us and
Governor
Iran.
China has the biggest navy in the world, the biggest army in the world. Now they have warships off the coast of Alaska. They are threatening Taiwan.
This
In coming
Vivek
years,
cat is
China will
really
have
trying to make me like
1,500
him.
nuclear warheads.
True, he's saying
released.
great
The
things.
U.S.
that,
just
like, all
arrested
of us
2
agree
sailors
with.
accused of spying for
doubt.
China within our military. So the
I
question
don't want a
is,
president that
how
says
would you
America needs
deter
somebody else.
China
That is
as a
such a good
president,
point, Scott.
Berger?
Well, this is the number one issue we're facing. And of course, we haven't been talking about it, and we act like that letting Russia win in the Ukraine is like a gimme as opposed to a gift to China. Russia has become China's gas station. But how would we do it? The Biden administration is a complete fail. China imports
Yeah, Sandra,
10 million
if my
barrels of
oil
oil
is
a day, more
cheaper,
than
my
any other
gas and
country
my
in the world.
gas
They
tank,
do not even have all
I'll
the food
partner
they
with a
need
bad
to feed
guy for
everybody in
that.
that country. So they don't have
I have
energy
to put
security,
food on my
security.
table.
But the Biden administration,
I don't give a shit who he
Biden,
kills.
Yellen,
I'd partner with
over there,
the Russians before
they're over
government
there trying,
that
they don't even
openly
bring up energy
worships
because they're
SS
too busy trying to
officers.
kill the U.S. energy
Yeah.
here. And what we need to do is
I
not
would agree
meetings,
with that.
not press releases, because
I don't like
energy
Nazis,
is a
Sandra.
lot more than a press release. Is actually
Yeah,
like
Sandra, why do you like Nazis, Sandra?
anti-ship missiles on
Sandra, why do you like
Taiwan.
Nazis?
The way that you have a war never start, which is the goal, the way you have peace through strength is that you actually have strength. You actually have deterrence. And what we have
Night Tex, thanks for coming by.
going on in Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan? The fact that he greenlighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that, because guess what? There's only 19,855 authorized people for the Border Patrol, but they're not all staff because the Biden administration doesn't enforce law enforcement. But Biden administration
Going to
wanted
address the
86,000
fact that
people in
Ukraine's
the IRS, as
counteroffensive
opposed
led to them
giving the money and the
losing
support we need to our own Border
ground.
Patrol.
Okay.
Like this, the idea that we're gonna, in the year that Ukraine's still gonna be fighting Russia is insane.
Let's fire the 87,000 IRS agents and hire or double the number of Border Patrol agents. I just left Yuma, Arizona about 2 weeks ago. The most pressing need of the
Smart
American
line.
people from a national security standpoint is our southern border.
I kinda
It has
disagree.
led to the death of 70,000
Gonna tax the illegals.
Americans because of fentanyl. Plus 6 million illegal crossings since President Biden has taken office, and 200 people on our national security watch list have been caught at our border. How many have not been caught at our southern border? If we just spend $10 billion, we could finish the wall. For $5 billion more, we could have the military-grade technology to surveil our southern border to stop the flow of fentanyl and save 70,000 Americans a year. That should be the priority of this government.
These guys
As
just
the
don't
next
like the
president
party.
of the United States, I will make that border wall complete.
There are many more questions.
Jake,
on
if you
China. I
if
do
you
wanna
stand them
ask
hard
you
enough,
about-
I wanna say I
Zelensky
couldn't agree
will
more.
maybe
It's not
be
just
your
the
friend.
70,000 from fentanyl. We've lost 200,000 people to
I
overdoses
love
since
you.
Biden took office. That's 300 people a day. We're taking mass casualties, and that's a statistic, but these are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews that we're losing. We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations. They've got better funding on their side than we've got on our side.
Speaking of which, Governor Hutchinson, images from earlier this month, Governor Hutchinson,
with Mexico,
Vice President Pence,
policy.
images from
We built
earlier
hundreds
this
of
month.
miles of wall. We secured the southern
Vice
border of the
President
United
Pence, it
States.
really doesn't help. I'm asking a question. Earlier this month, images showed
I love that he
suspected
got
cartel
reprimanded.
members crossing into Texas with rifles. Do you consider this an invasion?
That looks completely normal.
Would you authorize lethal force along
Yes.
that border?
There would be
Yeah,
lethal
yeah.
force used by the Border Patrol, law enforcement as needed to protect the
What about the
border.
ranchers?
Absolutely. When you look at the military has to be used for intelligence gathering purposes. This is not unusual.
So our
Whenever I
military
was
doesn't
in the
defend
Bush
our nation? What the fuck?
We went down there and met
God,
with
he's
President
buried
Vicente
himself
Fox of
tonight.
Mexico and asked
He'll
his
probably
help
lose
in
his
going after the
gubernatorial
cartels.
bid from now
And he
on.
looked at me and said, they're a problem to us as well. And so we joined together and we took down the Ariana Felix brothers leading the Tijuana cartel. And that made a difference. Ramon was shot and killed and Ben Amin was captured. Cooperation makes a
HW
difference.
era,
We
like-
cannot be successful
W.
going against the cartel unless we bring in Mexico as a partner. We have to use economic pressure to accomplish that. President Obrador has not been helpful, and we have to use economic pressure that this administration is not using. The rule of law has to matter on both sides of it.
When has
This
economic
is
pressure by the
I've done
United
it.
States
We know what needs to be
It
done.
ever
just
worked in our
increases-
favor
Military
over
has
the
to be
last 70
limited
years?
in its use.
I'll give everybody
When
a hint.
after
It's never
9/11,
worked.
Never.
We had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time.
No,
You can do both.
no, we didn't.
Let's go to Governor DeSantis.
We protected the border during the war on terror.
As president,
How?
would you
Supposedly.
support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels
I promise.
are killing tens of thousands of our fellow citizens. You want to talk about a country in decline?
I support
you have
this
the
wholeheartedly.
cartels controlling
Yeah.
a lot of
Me
part of your
too.
southern border. We have to
This
reestablish
is a good
the
moment
rule
for
of
him.
law, and we have to defend our people. The president of the United States has got to use all available powers as commander in chief to protect our country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick. I've met angel moms throughout this country. I met a lady in Texas named Tracy, and her son took one Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, immediately died. That is happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in. So as president, would I use force? Would I treat them as foreign terrorist organizations? You're darn right I would.
Say damn. Be
I
be
hate this.
passionate.
Gee golly whiz, it's
Why would you be
1934.
better at this issue than Governor DeSantis? Governor DeSantis on the campaign trail refers to your administration as not finishing the wall.
Right. Look, we
Gonna
secured the southern border.
Fox
of the
News
United
has a
States of
YouTube
America
channel. Just
and
go to
reduced
that.
illegal
Stop bothering
immigration
us.
and asylum abuse by 90%. When Joe Biden took over, he threw open the southern border of the
Yes.
United States, and the wave of humanity, the wave of fentanyl that's been eloquently described here is a wave
I
of human
might be
tragedy
able to
across
turn
this
those
country.
on,
But Martha, you began this evening talking about who is best prepared to be the next president of the United States. And I have to tell you, with all humility, I was there when we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on
Operation
Capitol
Warp
Hill
Speed.
around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And AC, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and
I don't have any way to do subtitles, Gonna K. I'm
before.
sorry.
And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United States of
Okay,
America.
thank you. Another issue that is related to this is that almost 7 million migrants have crossed this border, our southern border, during the Biden administration. So, Governor Christie, what would you do about the 7 million who are here? How would you handle them? What would you do?
Look, Martha, the first thing
There's
we need to
more than
do
7
is to stop any more from coming. That's the first thing we need to do.
Now, what are you gonna
Then
do with the
next
ones
thing
that are
we
here?
need to do with the folks that are here is to, again, as we've talked about all night tonight, we have to have law and order in this country. We have to enforce the law. And what that means is to make sure that people who come here illegally are not rewarded for being here illegally. We have so many wonderful people from around the world who are waiting in line, following the law to try to come here and pursue the
Gonna K, why are
American
you
dream.
commenting on us and
Those
not
people
fighting
are waiting
for your country
and
right now?
waiting and waiting because we haven't dealt with the problem. of the
Seriously, if you're a
folks that are
proud
here.
Ukrainian, go and join the
to have
military and
them
fight in the trenches
detained.
for it
We
instead
have
of
to make
spamming the
sure
internet.
that they
coward.
are
They
not
need you.
rewarded
They need you.
for having
Yeah.
broken the
Arisha, this
law.
is a really
And
good
one last
comment. I
thing
guess
on this
Americans have to
fentanyl issue.
stop wanting to do
With
drugs
China,
first.
we can't
True.
take our
If we
eye off
stop
of that
taking
ball.
them, they
Yes,
have
it's
no
important
buyer.
that we
That's a
secure
really
the
good
border.
point.
Very important, as I just said.
Yeah,
It's a good
and
point.
it's
China
economic
is
issue
all
selling
because
these chemicals to
It all
these
goes
drug
back to
cartels
mental health.
for them to create the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of
nuclear
thousands
family.
of our citizens. The Chinese
Okay,
That-
Amelia, I'm
that
gonna try
and
to-
I-
he's on
that
Twitch.
drugs are going to be a
killing
deal.
our citizens. We better
That
make
Chris
that priority
and
one
the economy.
in our
I mean,
conversations
people are
with
taking
China
these drugs as
absolutely.
downers. They have no
100%.
hope.
If we don't, we're going to lose more and more of our
I
citizens.
just want to clarify. Would you say
We're in a black hole right now.
And they don't recognize it because they look at the paper where they
have to.
manipulate the employment
We have a lot
statistics and
of
say,
issues
"Oh,
that
it's
Americans
really
care
great." When
about.
you look
Next up,
around
we're
and
going
go
to
around
talk about
town,
the crisis
no
in
one's
education,
working.
As millions of
No,
American
there's a real
children
home,
are not
like the
proficient
soul
in
of
reading
America
or
right
math.
now, and it's
After
being
this.
filled by drugs. I mean, of course it is.
All right, I'm gonna mute this
Alcohol.
and try it. We may be able to catch up to.
I'm gonna be right.
Which is what led me to like Vivek Fox, is because he talked a lot about the nuclear family and how that's the strongest governance in the world is the nuclear family and things like that.
And just about everything he says, I agree with.
Yeah,
Like I
but
agree with
think
everything he says.
that's coming out of his mouth, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be
Okay,
right
real
back.
quick, I want to go back to. God, I almost missed it. Amelia, thank you for this point. I did turn on closed captioning on Facebook. I have no access to turn it on Twitch, which is where Ganake is actually viewing from. So I apologize.
Well, how do you
Amelia's a
think it's
traitor.
going, Heather?
What?
How do you think it's going so far? I mean, Pence is
The
just sucking
nation's report
air out of the
card
room.
was the weakest ever for American school children.
I mean, I think some people
Exposing
have
chronic
performed really well. Asa
absenteeism,
Hutchinson
deep
has killed his
declines,
entire
for
campaign
reading and
tonight.
math
He's
for
been
15-year-olds and
atrocious.
13-year-olds. Governor DeSantis, you would eliminate, you said, the Department of
Ramiro
Education.
says we're
But
not
as
going
president,
anywhere.
would you still have a
Where DeSantis should
responsibility
shine
to fix
right here.
this crisis as we see it?
Addictions
Absolutely.
due
The
to the gutting
decline
of
in
America that
education
began
is
with
one of the
Reagan.
major reasons why our country is in
Arisha
decline.
says supply and
We
demand.
need
If we didn't demand it, the
education in
supply
this
wouldn't be
country,
there.
not
It's not
indoctrination
current
in this
though. We've
country.
always had the
And in
appetite.
Florida,
So what?
we
What's
stood
what's
up
your
for what was right
ultimate
first.
point?
We
I
had
mean, it's not going away.
COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen.
No.
because
She was
these
just making the,
lockdown
or
states
he,
locked
I'm
their
not
kids
sure,
out of school for a
was
year,
just
year and a
making the
half. That was
point.
wrong. We stood up. I took a lot of fire for that. I was pilloried by the media, but I stood for our
Sam,
kids.
go
As
watch it
president,
on
I'll stand
Fox
for you
News,
and your
man.
kids as well.
This is a
Sam,
commentary
you
stream.
illiterate boomer who uses
What our schools
Facebook.
are doing is
This is a
focusing on
commentary
all
stream. This
academics.
isn't Fox
In Florida,
News.
we eliminated critical race
We don't
theory from
cater
our
to
K
you.
through 12 schools. We eliminated gender
Cindy
ideology from our
Blizzard
K through 12
Hoffman.
schools.
Same to
And
you.
we have
You can shut up.
elevated the importance
Stop
of
using
American
Facebook.
civics and teaching our kids
Go
about
away.
the Constitution and the Bill of Rights.
Having Thunderdome in here maybe was not the best.
To increase civic understanding and
I think
knowledge
it's
of
great.
the
We're on chat.
Constitution. We cannot
Yeah,
be
Joey,
graduating
Tim
from
Scott
high
has
school without having a
disappeared. He's been really
foundation
bad
in what
tonight.
it means to be an American.
Mr.
Oh, her feelings are hurt.
Aw,
Susan.
thanks, Cindy.
Mr. Rami, hold on.
Oh,
We
you
really
can't-
appreciate you stopping by.
You can't go find the Fox
the
News
FBI, the
link.
ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory
Aw.
Commission, the IRS, the Department of Commerce, many of these should
try
not
harder.
exist.
Okay, so
That's
this is
correct.
where he's trying to
So,
get rid of
to the
these
education
agencies. So let's
question,
listen to what
how would you
his
deal with
plan
the
is with
crisis?
this.
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down
It
the
ain't an
state
airport,
Department of
Cindy.
Education.
You just walk
Take
out,
that $80
motherfucker.
billion, put it in
Goddamn.
the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time. Allow any parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level to allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that frankly every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's a part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot. Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house.
Big facts.
Contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember education
And the mental
starts
health
with the family,
crisis.
and the nuclear
You could
family
have
is the greatest
capitalized
form
on
of
that.
governance known to mankind.
Governor Haley has said that biological boys playing in girls' sports is the women's issue of our time. You said that even though you signed a ban on this in North Dakota, that there hadn't been one instance where it was actually needed. Are you saying that you think that too much is made of this issue?
No, I'm saying in North Dakota, we made a priority of protecting women's sports, and we've done that in our state. But I would absolutely do that. But I do think when we start talking about education and we think that we're going to have a federal government one size fits all, we're just completely losing track of the fact that education differs by state. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district, state, and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. When I was building a company from scratch, with small town kids, and we went, grew up in a town of 300, but we built a global company in 132 countries with over 100,000 customers. We listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well, education is one of the biggest part of a state budget. So as a governor, I shadow a student. The night before I find out the student finds out, I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I go and see the experience. And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in education is it's innovation. We're doing it the same way we did it 50 years ago with innovation, not regulation. I would get rid of the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose the red tape, get the burden off their back. They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
Governor Haley, you said that this was the women's issue of our time.
First, I'll tell you, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom.
I actually agree with that.
Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again.
With that 3rd grade
When we do
benchmark.
that and we allow that innovation, that's when it'll get back. And yes, I will always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women become strong leaders, and biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of us.
Another point on education.
We're going to start the lightning round, and the first question is going to go to you, Vice President. So this is a lightning round of questions, 30-second answers, please.
Big
President
facts,
Biden will be
Jake.
82 years old on Inauguration Day. Nearly 70% of Americans say that he is too old to serve. Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test in order to serve, Vice President Pence?
What do you guys think?
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental and but 30 seconds, no. The American people can make those judgments. But let me say, I'm running for president of the United States because we don't need a president who's too old. And we don't need a president who's too young. We need a president who's been there. We need a president who knows how Congress works, how the White House works, how states work. And on this education issue, Martha, I was fighting against No Child Left Behind when Republicans were doubling the Department of Education. I'll also shut down the federal Department of Education. And when I was governor, we doubled the size of the largest school choice program in America, and we'll give school choice to every family in America when I'm in the White House.
This is a lightning round, Mr. Ramaswamy. I think you were mentioned there. You're 38. You're the youngest on the stage. You've said, and you just said, you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote. So the question is, do you want a mental acuity test for presidents over 75?
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today. And I will tell you, I want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic working class majority to deliver a landslide. And I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution. We're going to do it in 2024.
Same question to you, Governor.
in a presidential election until
Okay.
20.
I will answer that. I will answer that. Hold on.
30
30-second quick answer.
You guys
Hold on.
need to get control of this debate.
Everybody's going to get a chance.
Listen, we're getting control of the debate. This is a lightning round, not rolling thunder. Governor Hutchinson, you have 30 seconds on the same question.
On education, first of all, look at Arkansas. We have to compete with China. I built computer science education. We led the nation in computer science education, going from 1,100 students to 23,000 students taking it. This is how you compete with China. As President of the United States, I will make sure we go from 51% of our schools offering computer science to every school in rural areas and urban areas offering computer science for the benefit of our kids, and we can compete with China in terms of technology.
Thank you, sir.
We need trade jobs, you idiot.
This is coming to you. We're trying to do a quick round of different topics here. So, Senator Scott, faith is on decline in this country. You talked about it a little bit before tonight. So, is there a role for a president of the United
observation,
States
Dave.
in changing that? What would you do to change that?
Well, our nation was founded upon the Judeo-Christian values that has made this the greatest nation on God's green earth. I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be to model the behavior we want others to follow. On education, the only way we change
We all
education
did,
in this
Jennifer.
nation is to break the backs of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
As
It's a good
President Governor
response.
DeSantis, would you support some
I really
mandatory
liked him,
military
Scott.
service for all Americans?
I think it should
There
be
he is,
voluntary. I'm
Joey.
somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September
too, yeah.
11th, and I deployed to Iraq alongside U.S. Navy SEALs in places like Fallujah, Ramadi.
He likes that
And,
Navy SEAL
something
comment.
that I
So
think
Yeah, he
taught
does.
me, you know, when
It's
you
the
go in
third
that
time he's
type of
thrown it out
environment,
there.
anything you have, your personal agenda, you check it at the door. You go there, and it's
George,
about
go to Fox
focusing on the
News.
mission
Not here.
above all else. And guys come together and they get it done. And that's how I would view being the president of the United States. It's not about me.
Maybe
It's not
George
about all
wants to
these
be the
other
president
side
of the United
issues.
States,
My
Fox.
sole focus
I don't know
will
if
be
he
on
can
your
handle it.
future and
We trigger
reversing
him
this
too
country's
much.
decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor.
Oh, we hurt George's feelings.
In UFO encounters.
Whatever, George Molding.
Go fuck yourself, George.
Okay, we've been
Fucking
hearing a
cunt
lot
boy.
of we've been hearing a lot of testimony in Congress, and people are taking this a lot more seriously. And we're hearing that, you know, there are things going on that people aren't aware of. So, if you were president, Governor Christie, would you level with the American people about what the government knows about these possible
Look,
encounters?
Martha, and especially coming from a woman from New Jersey.
Oh, he is out of
I
breath.
think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different. Look, of course, the job of the President of the United States is to level with the American people about everything. The job of the President of the United States is to stand for truth. The job of the President of the United States is to be a role model for our children and our grandchildren. And so whether
Someone
it was
please
UFOs
call up
or this
his
problem of
corruption.
education, and Tim's right, by the way, and I started this in 2010 by going right after the teachers unions in New Jersey and drove them down to an all-time low popularity rating because they were putting themselves before our kids. That is the biggest threat to our country, not UFOs.
Okay. Well, coming up, we've got closing arguments. Plus, right after the debate, Hannity is live from the spin room right here in the Fiserv Forum with reaction from all the candidates as soon as they.
Haney's going to be the only Trump surrogate in there.
Hey, it's Cade Courtley, former Navy SEAL platoon.
All right. So while we've got a little bit of a break during the commercial break,
Hey,
what
real quick, Fox.
do what?
Fox, real quick.
Okay.
Why are all the fucking shitheads from Facebook? Like,
I mean, who uses Facebook and isn't a shit? How
When
are
we
they
covered
even in
Governor
here?
DeSantis, he was
Is this-
standoffish and just didn't seem to get it. And by I mean engage everyone, not like some celebrity. Get this man
Yeah.
a corn dog. Talking about Chris Christie. Do you pay them well? I don't know who I'm paying or what's paying. Christie is a crook and
He
has
is a
been for
crook.
years.
I know why has nobody said it?
You know what's crazy to me? Cindy and Sam both are still here, and they both told us "fuck you" and "shut up" like 1,000 times. Republicans are very gay. I wonder if DeSantis knows Cade. Aren't you on Facebook? Yep.
I do know a gay Republican.
Lol, not a shithead.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Oh wait, who? By it, I mean. Oh, we weren't calling you a shithead.
No.
Yeah, no.
Not you. Everybody else, though.
You are on Facebook, though.
I'm Ian C. Jordan. He's
What's
not
up,
a
Ian?
shithead. He's Ian C. Jordan.
Oh, thanks, Ian C. Jordan. You post your social security and your credit card number? Just kidding. Don't do that. DeSantis was okay most of the night. It's just he whiffle waffled.
He didn't get much time
on the Pence decision. And this is a terrible format. It's just like 2016. They ask one question, they give you 30 seconds, and they only allow 3 people to answer the question and move on. It's not a debate. This is just internet blood sport in clipping for the next couple months. I mean, you gotta keep this in perspective.
A live look at the Reagan
elections
Library
don't
as
start.
sun
The primaries don't
sets in
start
Simi Valley, California.
for
We'll
4.5
see you
months.
next month when our colleagues at Fox Business host the next 2024 showdown.
Fox Business is partnering
Terrible
with
format,
Univision, the Reagan
agreed.
Foundation.
Do you
and
guys
Rumble to
know
bring
that
you
you
the second
can leave?
Republican presidential
You don't
debate on
have to
September
stay here.
27th. It looks
Yeah,
pretty
Fox
You can
News is
hit
streaming
that big
this.
X in the upper
20
right
years
hand corner,
ago, 70%
and you can
of
leave.
American adults
No,
said they were
no, stay.
extremely
We're gonna
proud
make you
to
suffer.
be an American.
We'll call you out
That number has now
personally.
plummeted to just 39%.
This is your whipping
In
boy.
his pitch
Your
to
PFP is really
Ukrainian.
stupid.
President
And you
Reagan
don't wear
called
enough
America the
makeup and your
shining
hair.
Ian C. Jordan, I am not trying to
I
be
think,
disrespectful.
I think, hey, just one second, Heather, though, real quick. I think they're talking about the debate, the format that Fox is doing sucks.
Oh, okay.
Not what you're doing.
Better day.
Gotcha.
45 seconds.
You're
I think
phenomenal.
Vivek has the energy that we need. Some of his commentary is questionable,
I
but so are
understand
most
why
of the other
America's
candidates.
hurting. Biden's inflation is choking us. I grew up in a small town. My dad died when I was freshman in high school. My mom, widow of 3, went back to work. Every job I had growing up was one where I took a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day.
James, they're streaming this on
Our
YouTube.
cities are less safe because of the fentanyl.
My
pouring
brother
into
was
this
the dad
country.
in American
Our
Pie.
economy is being crushed by Biden's energy policies, which
I'm
are raising the cost of
actually
every product
Gavin
you buy,
Newsom
not
and
just
I
the
need to.
gasoline at the pump. One thing that
Oh my
I'll
God.
do as president,
Look at those eyebrows.
I'll secure the border. I'll get this
He looks
economy
like the dad
sprinting.
in
It
American
really
Pie.
is
Crawling
Gavin
like it is
Newsom.
right now. And I would say that
Hey, is
other
this
thing
guy
is
from
for
a
sure.
small town?
When I'm on a
Did you
horseback
guys hear or not?
in the
You're right,
Badlands of
Dana,
North
my
Dakota,
bad.
it looks like the horizon is just limitless. And when you can
there
almost see
big
beyond
towns
that
in North
horizon, you
Dakota?
can see that this great country, our future is unlimited. But we've got to focus on
love you,
innovation, not
Joey.
regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with
Amelia's
China
right.
is by growing our
Probably.
economy and through innovation. And as president, I will bring out the best of
Gotta
America.
be,
I will
Amelia.
improve
Gotta
every
be,
American
right?
life.
Well,
Governor
we hope you're
Hutchinson.
back on your horse soon, Governor.
Governor Hutchinson.
Our nation is in trouble.
Our
It's in
nation.
trouble because of failed leadership. And the
Failed
solution
leadership.
is not 4
I
more
can tell you
years
what
of
it's like
Joseph
from
Biden.
down here in
The
Arkansas.
solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. The
We
solution
fuck our
is new
cousins down
leadership
here.
that can bring
No, I'm just kidding. I'm
bold
sorry.
ideas to
Oh my
America
God,
and to bring
one
out the best
time.
of America. A president's number one responsibility
Brought to you by
is
Black
to
Black
bring
Rifle
out the
Coffee
best
Company.
of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism and hope for our country.
I know
with
people like
consistent
keep telling us to
conservative
shut
Jeez,
up.
Ronald
That's
Reagan's
exactly
been
what
dead
I
for
bring.
how long?
As president, I'll bring out the best
Fox,
of America
shut
in
up,
terms of
Fox. Oh my
individual
God.
responsibility.
Why are we
building
bringing him
our
up?
economy, in
Bro,
terms
go
of
easy on
securing our
Arkansas.
border,
I'm sorry, Jeff. You're
enforcing the
right.
rule of
I
law.
should have been
I'll bring
nicer.
out
It's
the best of
Arkansas.
America in terms of our
Who
national
is it?
character,
Kotsui
our
or some
faith,
shit?
and our
Wait,
hope for
why
the
why
future.
hasn't their
Join
governor
in this
endorsed
fight.
Trump?
Ace the 2024.
Ding ding. You're
Why
done,
don't
motherfucker.
why don't the Trump people go after that person?
Thank you.
All right, Timmy.
I was a
Get a hold of it.
disillusioned young man growing up in a single parent household, mired in poverty. I wondered if the American dream was real for a kid like me. I can stand before you today and say the dream is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. I have the good fortune of a mom who works 16-hour days, making sure we have food on our tables. She taught me that if you're able-bodied in America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man, you play sports against men. I'm Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote. And if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information or to make a contribution.
This must be getting over with, huh?
Governor Christie.
Yeah, these are their closing arguments.
Thank you,
All right,
Bob. Thank you, Martha.
Who's going to get the last one?
Everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States. And the only way that's going to happen is if we beat Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this stage who's ever beaten a Democratic incumbent in an election. I did it in a deep blue state, being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state who knew how to get results, who stood for the truth, who cared about accountability, and stood strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did in my 8 years as governor of New Jersey.
That's a good answer, except for you're not likable at all.
President of the United States.
He was.
Believe me, the Democrats want some other nominee who's never beaten a Democratic incumbent. I'm the one who can win this race.
We all want
And if you
another
give me the
nominee.
chance, I will restore our
It
country
was
by
a
winning.
terrible line to put in that
Governor
closing
Haley.
speech.
Several weeks ago, I dropped my husband, Michael, a combat veteran from Afghanistan, off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they
And
are
I'd send
willing
him someplace else
protect
too.
us from there, we should be willing to
Yeah.
fight for America here. I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows
She's
that.
the literal
just
one who said
advocated for Ukraine.
Bring this
war
inflation
against the
down. We will
world.
put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to Nikki Haley.
Vivek's going to crush this because everyone else is trying to do it. This is a vanilla America.
Yeah.
You know?
God, I
agree.
don't like her.
Thank you, Brad.
She makes me want to yell, repeal the 19th, like as loud as I can.
Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. The disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, their war on energy, runaway spending that launched the worst inflation in 40 years, a crisis at our southern border, an assault on our values and liberties. And the American people have had enough. But I know we can
Where he
bring it back.
sucks air to it through his
But different times call for different leadership. The Republican Party owes the American people a choice. Proven leadership at the national level that knows how to move a conservative agenda forward. We proved in the Trump-Pence years you can turn this country around faster than you can imagine. And I have faith we will again. Because I have faith in the American people. The good, decent, hardworking, faith-filled, idealistic people of this country. And I have faith that God is not done with America yet.
He scares
And if we
you.
will renew our faith in one another and renew our faith in him who has ever guided this nation since we arrived on these wilderness shores, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come.
Yeah, Rudy, that's the irony here is they've been talking about constant.
1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are 2 genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine.
Whoa.
The education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight. Thank you.
Governor DeSantis.
Oh, he's awkward. He's freaking out. He's freaking out.
Governor?
This is our time for choosing. We will send
Oh,
Joe Biden
jeez.
back to his basement, and we will reverse the decline of this country. I'm a blue-collar kid. I work minimum wage jobs to be able to make ends meet. I understand the importance of the American dream, and I know how that's slipped away from so many millions of Americans. We'll restore it. I'm a veteran who served in Iraq. I know what it means to put service above self. I'm also a dad and a husband to 6'5" and 3-year-old. I understand the importance of protecting parents' rights and the well-being of our children. In Florida, we showed it could be done. I made promises and I delivered on all of those promises. 2024 is make or break. We're not getting a mulligan, no excuses. I will get the job done. And as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you all.
Well, we want to say thank you. Thank you to all the candidates on the stage tonight, and thank you to Milwaukee.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the campaign trail from debates to primaries to the general election and the conventions before that. Thanks for joining us.
That was so pointless.
All right.
It would have been sweet if
So,
like sparks would have like started shooting out and Trump would have came down from like the rafters.
okay, so I can't do like a super long post debate commentary because I technically should have started book club an hour ago, but I just didn't want to leave.
Oh,
Yeah.
I forgot
So,
about that.
And we have 12
Real
chapters to
quick,
cover tonight. So,
shout out
okay.
to INC Jordan. Real quick.
So, real fast, while you guys are tuning in, if you're watching the stream, please like, share, do all of that stuff. Make sure you're subscribed. We're on YouTube as Patriots and Petticoats. We're also on Rumble. I appreciate everybody who joined in, chimed in tonight. I apologize for anyone who thought that this was Fox News, but I mean, hello, that's exciting, right? But we do a live stream every Sunday evening, and we'd love to have you guys back to comment. We'll be talking about the debate. We have another co-host, Eric, who's not here tonight. But with that being said, let's get into this debate. Who do we think did very well? Who do we think like just really shined through?
Mike Pence absolutely stole the stage.
Stole the stages and took so much fucking time every time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
no matter what he said, whether we agree, disagree, don't agree, it doesn't fucking matter. He stole the stage.
Him
And
and
I want to
Vivek.
shout out real quick, just shout out to INC Jordan. I was just looking at his stuff on YouTube. And there's another guy in here. Nia Paris. What up, man? Go ahead. Sorry. I just want to say hi.
I don't remember who was going to go.
Yeah,
Exit, who do you think did well?
I mean, I think Vivek did really well, to be totally honest. Chris Christie did better than what I thought he would do, but he's still at the very bottom of the bucket. But Vivek just needed to introduce himself to everybody. And like, I mean, in there, he said the Constitution is basically the greatest thing since like sliced bread. The Second Amendment is inside the Constitution, so some of you probably could chill the fuck out. I mean, it'd be nice if you went more specific on it, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Tim
Chat,
Scott.
I'd like to hear from you guys too on who you thought did well. Okay, go ahead.
Tim Scott. I feel like Tim Scott just. I wish we could go back. Didn't he run in 2016?
He did.
Like, it seems like the same thing.
The disappointing thing about Tim Scott is that he is very eloquent. He's very well spoken. He has a very good message. He struggles significantly with his tone, inflection, and delivery. He has no passion.
I like him a lot, though. I think he's a
I
great
do too.
person.
I do too. I really do.
Like,
like
I don't
him a lot.
I don't say anything. I don't really have anything bad to say about him. I just everyone else, like Nikki Haley, I feel like I hate her more. And then that dude from North Dakota. Did he own, what was the computer company out of North Dakota? Did he start Dell?
Who?
The dude out of North.
Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember his name. Burga.
There's a computer company out of North Dakota. I can't remember which one.
Fox, what do you think?
Whatever.
Vivek did great for what he wanted to do, and him and Pence stole the show.
Okay, hold on. I want to ask you guys just because of time, but I do want an answer to this question. Do you guys think that Ron DeSantis's campaign is dead now with this performance?
No, I don't think this has any impact on really anything until a couple months from now. I don't think any of them are going to go away until closer to Iowa and New Hampshire. And maybe they all stay in until then.
Chris, what do you think?
I think that Vivek laid it out, and he did a lot of pushback. I just like how he handled himself. I don't think that he let them run roughshod over him, and I think that's what they wanted to do. They just wanted to end him right now. And I think if DeSantis, how do you say it? Ron DeSantis, if he will just fucking be human for 4 minutes and engage, it's hard to watch him.
Yes.
It seems so fucking scripted.
He did look very
nervous or something.
He looked very stressed out and defensive when they asked him about the Pence decision. I didn't like his answer and how he handled himself on that. Whereas Vivek was more fighting, and then the only other person who fought back was Christie.
Well, Vivek didn't do anything I don't think Vivek did anything to alienate anyone.
No, I don't think so. I think his aggressiveness is actually a very positive thing. He came out
he pushed back with his own accomplishments.
And I don't think
that's how he.
Yes. I don't think that it's the time. This election is going to be a good time to try to smear his age, because I don't think America is opposed to a younger president.
Well, okay, so that's a really interesting point, Chris, because think about, and it coincides with Dave's comment here. Vivek is the Republican threat. Take it from me, an old Bernie bro type progressive. He could pull votes from the Democrats. Okay. Not just the Democrats, but the young Democrat. He could pull the Gen Z block.
Well, Joe Rogan likes Vivek.
Yeah.
And he liked Bernie.
Yeah.
And that's a big fucking base.
Yep. I agree.
And he's doing all the right things by whether we want to believe that he's paid by Trump, even if he's not paid by Trump, alienating Trump is taking 60% of the Republican base, and those votes are now gone for you.
Right.
I think most of the people.
It's the only way to do it. There's no other way.
Most of the people on stage tonight tried to not alienate Trump at all. Like DeSantis stayed away from that question. Mike Pence tried to be very cautious about it. And it was interesting to hear the crowd during that whole discussion, because they cheered. It seemed like they were cheering the fact that he stood firm, and then booed him every other time.
They just don't like him.
I think that's the audience was really contradictory, and it wasn't segments of the audience. It's the collective audience was schizophrenic.
I disagree.
At points in time.
I thought because they cheered Vivek really in the beginning, and then when they came to him with Ukraine, they booed. It almost felt scripted. I don't know.
To me, it sounded sections of the crowd.
Exit.
There were times when you could tell it was sections of the crowd, but like Chris just said, that you would hear the crowd roar for Vivek or some other answers, and then all of a sudden they're like neocons supporting, war against the world, It was very weird.
There was one that I know did throw me, and I know it was with Vivek, and I think it had to do with Ukraine. But
yeah,
I still think that
I wrote down crowd seemed pro.
I thought the most telling thing, which should make you settle the fuck down, is how Christie, like all the freaking neocons, like the establishment people that you hate, feel like you should hate more than anyone else, went after Vivek hard.
They did. They're scared of him.
They did not want. They didn't want to let him talk. They didn't want to let him talk. And he, like, the shitty thing is
Mike Pence was on that. That was like he was tasked.
Right, between Heather talking and Mike Pence talking over him. It's like both of you guys are freaking establishment shills.
She's gonna slap us.
Just kidding.
Why don't you go join your friends on Facebook?
I think that's because they probably saw they probably see him as the Trump surrogate there to argue
about?
against.
Like he's the Trump campaign.
Stop calling him a Trump surrogate.
It's so ridiculous.
Trump surrogate.
Dude, like this is like borderline Sandy Hook is the false flag. That's how fucking
no, it's not. No, it's not. And you're gonna get this. You're gonna get Heather's channel booted for that. No, he has deep ties to Trump. That's not even disputed.
How? Because he used a marketing.
The financial ties, the fact that his supporters don't oppose him, the fact that he's hanging out with all of Trump's people, the fact that Trump's people support him, the fact that Rudy Giuliani said on Twitter, "Welcome to the campaign, Vivek." Like it's ridiculous how closely
They're
tied
both
these
populists. They
fucks
can't alienate either person's audience.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. You can't alienate Trump's audience. Then you're not going to run for president in a general election.
Exactly.
If you alienate Trump's base, you do not win a primary.
It's just
Vivek is a populist. So Trump is smart as fuck. What's he gonna do? He's gonna ride Vivek's coattails.
If Vivek came out and said some shit, yeah, then he would be in the crosshairs, just like everybody else.
Yeah.
So do you guys think that Vivek's a Republican? I mean, is Vivek a Republican, or is that he just got to attach to something to ride?
I think he's a centrist, even maybe center left, but a populist. Like he's a classical liberal, maybe populist. I'm not sure, but he's not a Republican.
They will.
I mean, what is a Republican?
The establishment will fucking wreck his life.
That's a great question, Exit. What even is a Republican anymore?
I don't, or a Democrat, because it seems like we're switching again. Like it's just this, like
it seems.
And something Rudy pointed out in the comments. I mean, everybody here, they wanted to talk about I protect the Constitution, but every single answer they gave, except for Doug on one answer was, I'm going to use a power and authority, power and authority, power and authority. I mean, none of these guys are really pro freedom.
Sure.
You could pick apart every single one of these people on that issue.
Well, I mean,
I'm going to go through some.
I guess to be a little bit charitable to them, like, are they going to go through and say, well, we want to do this, so I have to go and lobby Congress to do their thing, and then go over to the Senate and get them, get to do. They're going to talk about all that. He's going to go through all the steps of how to get legislation
talk about listening to the people.
Well, I mean, they're asking him what their agenda would be or what you're going to do.
Listen to the American people.
I'll put my ear to the ground and.
Yeah.
Hear what they say.
Fuck yeah. I would much rather listen to somebody say, I'm going to put my ear to the ground and listen to my constituents than tell me I'm going to go in there and do X, Y, Z.
And then what is he going to do?
What?
Then what? He listens. He hears the American people want to do. Then what does this next president do?
The next president?
If that's what you want, like in a ideal world, they hear what the American people want them to do. Then what do? They've heard it. Now what?
They accomplish the things the American people have asked for.
But they're not king. They can't do it on their own. You got 30 seconds. They answer the question. This is the debate. Tell us exactly step by step what you're going to do.
Is that what we said, or are you being like
no? You're bitching about them saying like what we're going to do. They're not pro freedom. Like okay, like. Be a little
every
bit
answer
fairer.
they gave was federal power and authority. Oh, we're
Ugh.
going to solve the teacher issue. Where in
Yeah,
the
if you're telling me
fuck
you're
does
going to
that
walk in
come
there with
from?
an ink pen just like Joe Biden has been doing, and just like every president for the last 20 years, I don't want to fucking hear it. I would rather have a president that gets elected and does fuck all nothing but sign the bills that come in from Congress.
Yeah, except this is the answer that they need to give. That
I
is
will
not
not rule
something
by
in my
executive
power
order.
as president or in the federal government, and it needs to go back to the states. And oh, by the way, when we do that, we'll save a shit ton of tax dollars.
Yeah. I
That
will
will
not
come back
rule
to
by
the
the
I
American
book.
will defund the federal government.
Hey, Heather, pull up Dave's comment right here.
I
'cause
will.
think
Hang
it's
on. I want
important
to
know.
respond to Nea. I'm so sorry if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly. Christie was surprising. I'm not fond of him, but he showed more backbone on stage. Again, it's not about a performance. It's about who is fit to lead our nation. I do actually agree with this. Of all of the candidates who were on that stage, Vivek and Chris Christie handled themselves the best, in my personal opinion. I do not like Chris Christie. I would puke in my mouth if he
Try to vote for him.
you like oh God. Okay.
I
Chris
don't
is here
think
to
Chris
upset the apple cart. I'm finishing an article about Wisconsin and how fucked up the Republican Party is right now on News Undone. Ian, put your website or whatever, like your link to your articles or whatever, so people
Shill it.
can find you. Shill your stuff. I am all about whatever you are doing, and if it is more
I
than
was
the
just talking
mainstream
his
media, do it
YouTube.
all day
It was
long.
legit.
I agree. True.
Vivek was head and shoulders above the rest, which is tough for a little guy. The skinny little guy.
I want to say
but
that
we kind of knew that was going to happen. Sorry, go ahead, Fox.
The candidates I thought that came off as genuine and were saying things that they actually believed would have been Christie, Tim Scott.
We don't even talk about Tim.
South Dakota did good.
I think that's
Gavin
probably.
Newsom?
I think Gavin Newsom's uncle probably believes in what he said. Ron.
Yeah, they are.
Scott says yes.
I just don't like how Ron DeSantis was weak on the answer about Pence.
I don't see how you can say you thought Chris Christie was honest.
None of them have a shot.
Is he
in
an
hell against
honest
Trump.
person?
No, Carrie.
Who
don't.
knows?
You're
Probably
exactly
not. Let's
right.
just say no. He's not an honest person, and he's a piece of trash. Now, do I think he lobbied for positions he doesn't believe in?
You know what
during
sucks?
this
I don't
debate?
have my mute
I don't
all
think so.
button.
Yeah,
I do on Spaces.
But then again, I don't think exit that this debate really covered anything meaningful either.
No, I mean, like you said, there's a rule of law.
The
clearly does not.
No,
believe in
he's a Navy SEAL.
I'd agree. Okay, exit. I'd agree with that. The most important issues that were brought up in this debate were brought up by Nikki Haley when it came to Medicaid.
Oh, she did really well too
in the
tonight.
spending on that's probably one of the largest controversial issues that Congress is going to be taking
more
up.
Personality, yep, for sure.
I like Tim Scott a lot, and I mean, I liked him I called for him in 2024, like in 16.
DeSantis needs to be aware there are many conservatives live liberal lives. He will lose a lot of votes. Embarrassed for RD pretending to be Ron DeSantis pretending to be a cool kid. He probably has a girlfriend in Canada too. DeSantis is fake. I covered him in Green Bay when we were covering Tim Michaels.
So, Ian, do you think he's fake or is he awkward?
So that's the thing. The one part where I felt like he looked like a Stepford wife of a politician was on his closing argument when they came to him. He's just like he was like frozen.
He was a Saturday Night Live skit.
Yes. Yes.
But
Jen says,
I like his policies. I like what he does.
I do too. He's done great in Florida.
Figure out how to be a human.
Yes. I agree. I would love to see a younger president. Vivek can pull the indies. Chris is right. I hear from many people in older generations who look forward to a younger leader. You're handing it off, right? Like the boomers have lived their time. We
Have
all
you guys
have
seen
children, right? We have kids. We want the future decisions made for the country to be beneficial for those kids. We want them made by somebody who's going to be alive to suffer the repercussions of the decisions that are made. You vote for Joe Biden again, whatever decisions he makes, your kids get to suffer. He'll be long dead before that happens.
Yeah.
Not in a way like I'm
Yeah,
not threatening violence or anything. I just
No,
want to be
he's
clear,
just
YouTube, as
natural
you're listening to me.
Natural causes are eventually
Yes.
going to catch up to Joe Biden.
You will need
Doing
the
so
Trump
much
support
meth.
to push the Republican nominee over. You're right. Trump
I'm
2024.
not sure about that.
There are a lot of Trump support. Don't alienate the Trump supporters.
Yeah,
The party is contradictory right now. Yes, I
The
think
Tea
you
Party
have.
lasted one election and then it was gone. And then Trump won because Hillary came out. I think it may be true, Scott, what you say, but I think that the power of Trump supporters at this point is very low, lower than people think. And let's just say if what you say is true and that we do need to support, it has to be a fine, delicate balance because the independents and people who are moderates and swing left are not going to like anybody tied to Trump. He is that unlikable because whatever you think of January 6th, normal people look at it very negatively. And
Well, define normal, Fox.
people who don't watch the news, people
I
who
watch MSNBC and CNN because that's what's on at the airport.
normal Americans who are not terminally online and addicted to politics viewed that
not
as
us.
an
Not
absolute
us.
shit show. And plenty of Republicans did too.
I'm sorry.
Which
Sam said,
okay, real quick, Heather,
Oh,
which is
go ahead.
something that I also wrote down is the entire narrative of this debate was really that we need to move on from Trump. And without saying it out loud,
Yeah.
everybody implied that, okay, we might like him, we might pardon him. We're not going to blast him except for Asa and Chris Christie at times.
Right.
But it's time to move on.
I mean,
Sam said, is Vivek running for president or VP? Like, look, okay, so I'll
He
just
said
let
no
you
to
guys know,
VP.
those of you who are tuning in right now, Vivek for me is my Tulsi Gabbard for most Republicans. Like Vivek, I want to believe the words that are coming out of his mouth. I want to truly believe that we have a candidate running that is invested in not only what he says, but open to changing his mind. And I know for a lot of people, whatever position you take, you must be railroaded into that position and you have to keep that position for the rest of your life. But I don't like that. Like, I like being proved wrong. I like having someone challenge my ideas and get me to see things from a different perspective. So when I look at a candidate, I enjoy a candidate who's capable of saying, well, I was wrong about that. I've changed my position. And he's done that multiple times, weekly, in fact. But I want to believe that he is the person that came on that stage tonight and that he is, in fact, running for president. So that's my fucking fluffy, idealistic woman answer to your question, Sam.
Ton of spaghetti in that one.
I think he should prove himself with a position of less responsibility. So he can get an idea of what he actually believes and what he will do under pressure. Because the reality is everybody loves him for what he says. Clips. He's unvetted by the media. Let's just say the general election is 2 months away and he's a nominee. Oh, they will rip him apart because of his connections to Martin Shkreli. And once that comes out, oh dear God, on the healthcare issue, Republicans will lose. That's very popular for the elderly people on Medicaid again.
Vivek's connection.
Well,
to
they'll
Martin
also,
Shkreli.
if they really find out about the program that Vivek tried to sell at the opening of COVID, where he was trying to create that tracking program for vaccines, that is a huge, for me, That's like the one like bone of contention that just really fucking sticks in my craw, that he was willing to jump on board with the whole COVID, like tracking Americans. Like I have a huge fucking problem with that. Then at the same point, right? I'm a capitalist. If he doesn't do it, someone else is going to. So I get it that software was in demand and that they wanted somebody to do it and he was trying to fill the need because he's a capitalist, but it still bothers me from a freedom perspective.
Well, is there anything wrong with the idea of that software? No. The thing is the voluntary nature of that program and
Right.
tracking. That's something different, which, at this point in time with everything Obama put in through Obamacare, everything's tracked already in a universal system. I mean, your chart can be uploaded by any doctor in the United States or pretty much throughout the world at this point in time. So
Do you think that that's a really bad thing?
that what they did with the vaccine thing?
No, that your chart can be pulled up if you go to Orlando, Florida, and you break an ankle.
I don't see it as positive or negative. There's positives to it. There's a lot of negatives to it.
So it should be like
if I had to choose, I'd say it's more negative. But at the same time, I mean, it makes things a lot more efficient. But I don't. But what's it being used for? That's where I get.
Jake says Vivek came across to me as someone trying to sell me on a multi-level marketing.
I think he
That's
came
because
out
he
way
doesn't
too
like
corny.
Ukraine.
Yeah, I think he came out way too corny and happy in the beginning with like his opening smile is just weird to me, but he warmed up to the crowd, and once he got comfortable, he did a great job. And look, like y'all know what I really feel about him, but he did a good job.
The fact that you're able to remain objective knowing how you feel about him is pretty admirable, Fox. I'm proud of you.
I could be more objective too, but
the word you're looking for is kingmaker. Dave says, thanks for the commentary. Good to hear all your takes. Around here, we tend to stereotype Republicans as wrong end of bell curve QAnon nut jobs, but you are not that. Thank you so much, Dave.
I get
that. Glad that was your takeaway.
Dave.
I appreciate that very much. Chris Christie, vomit. Yes.
Yep.
Tim Scott equals awkward. Yep.
Yep.
Just say low information voters.
Ouch.
Normal Americans who aren't us. That is 100% factual. Biden is likable? No.
Listen here, you dog-faced pony soldier.
Anybody said that. Corn Pop is a bad dude. Vivek equals Republican Obama. Oh, God, that hurts my heart. It's great to let someone change positions due to like new information, but I want to know core values are going to be consistent. I don't disagree with that, Jake. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. See, that's what I'm saying. Then voted for Biden. If we don't make Zyklon, someone else will. Shut up, Jake. I hate you.
Facts, bro.
Vivek made money with pharma.
100%. A lot of it. All of his money, probably.
But again,
he was a millionaire before he went to law school.
Like, if I can make money, I'm going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, perhaps the business that he started is viable with the fact that American pharmaceutical companies can't afford to take certain products to completion without massive new investment. So they need a way to fund the projects individually. And the smartest way to do that is to incorporate on a tax shelter. But at the same time, the model in and of itself and the way it has been handled and the way he's made money off of it while the businesses have completely crashed, are very suspect, and it's a lot of negatives to handle if he becomes a high profile, like top 3 candidate.
That's true.
So he needs to be able to address that on the front end.
Yes.
Explain it and then turn it into a win.
I mean,
And
that's
he avoids the issue entirely.
That'd be a real challenge against all these, career politicians who are worth millions of dollars and have never done a goddamn thing in the private sector.
Yes. That's a very accurate point.
That would be yeah, and that would be the easiest attack angle for him.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
It worked for Trump.
like tanking your business 75% and shareholders losing everything while you lost 0 is not a good.
What do you mean? There's 25% left, so how would they lose everything?
Oh, gee, I'm gonna.
Chris, that's a really good point when you
I'm gonna
said
slap you,
Trump did it. I know.
Yeah, that's what it worked for him.
Yeah. I mean, that's how he got elected, right?
I mean, he said I'm an outsider, but I've been in the system. I know how it works. It is rigged.
Yep.
It's rigged against you, and I'll go fix it. That's what he
So,
said. I mean, kind of. That's what a lot of like my family heard.
One more. Nikki Haley had a very good performance tonight, but I still hate her. Like, I still don't like her.
Who thinks she had a good? Who thinks that?
Heather does.
I do. I think that from an expectation to delivery perspective, she did really well tonight.
You mean like she just like?
Do you think she did well?
I feel like
with
she
women
could have done better if
Republicans?
she would have just said nothing.
Hey guys,
Heather,
I gotta go to bed.
Do you think she reached? Do you think she did a good job communicating to Republican women?
No. I think her whole position on abortion, and I know like Jake made the comment that the reason that she did that was because she was trying to say that it's like a states' rights issue versus like passing that from a federal perspective. But you're supposed to be speaking to your potential voters and your potential positions. Now, if you want to say, I think legally that it's a states' rights issue, but morally, here's my position, then I think you say that. But she kept saying, we can't demonize this. We can't demonize this.
And then her comment that like they want to give them the death penalty. I'm like, outside of like the people I hang around with on Twitter, which is like 50 people in 4chan, nobody's saying that at all.
Right.
Tim Scott gave the best answer to that.
I forgot.
Where he just raised the irony point where it's like the right to
the
life. Like,
Constitution gives the right to life.
Basic. Like,
yeah.
What are y'all talking about? It's a federal or state issue. It's basic principles. Nothing else matters if life doesn't.
Okay, guys, it is 11:30. I was supposed to start book club an hour ago, so I am going to leave. To everyone who has hung with us this long, thank you guys for joining us this evening. Fox, do you want them to follow you?
No.
Okay.
But I do want them to register to vote.
Yep.
Contact your county clerk and see if they have extra positions to work as a poll worker or as a volunteer. Contact your local Republican Party to do the same. Get involved in the election process and be part of the solution, or at least a guardian against illegal activity rather than repeating hearsay on social media.
Exit can be found. We all kind of participate a lot more. I mean, obviously, many of you guys that tuned in this evening came from the Facebook side. We spend most of our time on Twitter, so you can find Exit at Row Exit. You can find me at Shouse34, or if you're on Facebook, just go to my profile or my bio. The link is there that has like all of the shows, all of the places where you can find me. We have enjoyed, or I've enjoyed all of the commentary tonight. Even the people who wanted us to shut up. I even enjoy people telling me to shut up. I even enjoy people telling me to shut up. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you both for joining me this evening. I appreciate you. Thunderdome. Have you guys picked like a steady night to have Thunderdome?
I kind of feel like that would be against.
Yeah, it's like lightning. It just
It's like lightning. Okay, just kidding. You got to follow these guys for Thunderdome, Twitter Spaces, fights all the time over, like, Exit thinks the Beatles were like the greatest band of all time. So
literally not what I said at all. We'll fight about that too.
And Fox is a furry, so it works out great. Okay, he's not really, and neither did Exit.
Declaring war on everybody.
Good night, you guys. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate you very much. You guys take care and have a good week.
All right, see ya.
See ya.